You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 516, Holy Prose Contest Requests Monthly Subscription, 4. Chapter 516, Chapter 141 Holy Prose Contest Requests Monthly Subscription, 4. The gap was so big. Su Yu didn't consume any energy before. So he used his sword aura to injure him, causing him to be covered in bruises. Was it all intentional by Su Yu? Intentionally making his face look better? Up until this moment, he didn't realize that Su Yu, who was covered in bruises, was just an illusion. He thought that Su Yu was deliberately giving way to him. He was a little embarrassed and annoyed, but also a little helpless. Was the gap really so big? Then he remembered that he had said before that Su Yu was a fake, that his body was inferior to others, that his willpower was inferior to others, and that his divine writing was inferior to others. Hu Zongqi was ashamed. If Su Yu was a fake, what was he? Su Yu even took care of him and deliberately fought with him for 5 minutes. Hu Zongqi was even more ashamed. He lowered his head and cupped his hands towards Su Yu. He said bitterly, "Thank you for showing mercy, brother Su. I'm inferior to you." After saying that, he turned around and returned to the crowd. He felt somewhat bitter and disappointed. Seeing this, Su Yu did not say anything else. He returned to the crowd and walked towards him. When the next match began, he moved closer to Hu Zongqi's side. He said softly, "Brother Hu, you're not angry with me, right? Actually, Zongqi, your divine runes just now were very powerful. I just felt that they were a little too scattered. Zongqi, have you considered being more focused? It's nice to see 10,000 swords attack at the same time, but to say something that you might mind, the power is so scattered that it's very difficult to harm me." Hu Zongqi glanced at him and said somewhat awkwardly, "Is that so?" "Yes." Su Yu said seriously, "If it had been a single sword attack, even if it hadn't lasted for a long time, I might have been seriously injured. The divine runes would have retreated, and you wouldn't have become more and more powerless in the later stages. Later on, it was obvious that you wouldn't be able to continue." Hu Zongqi seemed to be deep in thought as he nodded and said, "That's true. Actually, my brother, my second grandpa, and the others all said that they needed to concentrate their strength, but they couldn't see my divine runes, so I didn't take their suggestions seriously, brother Su. Just call me by my name. We've known each other for a long time. It was fate for us to walk the same path before school started. But later on, our relationship became a little stiff." Su Yu smiled and said, "At that time, you even invited me to join the Tianshui Association. Fortunately, I didn't join, otherwise, with my identity as a member of the Divine Literature Department, you would probably be really uncomfortable. The Tianshui Association would scold you to death." Hu Zongqi laughed awkwardly, "That. I'm afraid it is. At that time, I didn't really understand it, and I was a little resentful that you didn't know how to appreciate favors. Now that I think about it, it's actually quite ridiculous. If you really agreed, I would probably curse you to death right now." After he said that, he became even more embarrassed. He said in a low voice, "Su Yu, I'm a little sorry about before. About the Southern Yuan assessment, actually, I've already figured it out since the last monthly assessment. It's definitely not fake. I'm just a little unconvinced, always thinking about how poor the Southern Yuan is, cough cough, I'm sorry." "It's fine." Su Yu smiled and said, "It's normal. Just like me, living in the Southern Yuan, I would also feel that the people living in the suburbs of the Southern Yuan city are not as powerful as me. Even if they are really powerful, I would still feel that they are not as powerful as me. It's very normal." Su Yu. Hu Zongqi was a little embarrassed. He said in a low voice, "Actually, you don't have to give in to me just now. I heard it all. They are comparing you to Xia Chan and the others. They are saying that you." I think you are not inferior to them. Suyu smiled gently and said, it's okay. We are old acquaintances. Of course, we are different. It's okay to doubt me. I have quite a lot of meat. Later, if I really meet someone from the single Divine One faction, I'll let them see what lightning fury is. I'll also let the others know that you're very strong. You actually fought with me for 5 minutes. When Hu Zongqi heard this, he didn't feel any sense of humiliation. He only felt a little excited, then I'll have to see. I'm already prepared to leave. Since you say so, I'll have to see. It's best if the next one is from the single Divine One faction. Don't hold back. Defeat him directly. I think you're very strong. Suyu nodded with a smile. At this moment, Lu Hong's gaze on the stage was extremely strange. Damn it! What are you doing? You're a student from the Southern Yuan School, a fellow from the Multiple Divine Literature Department, the target everyone wants to beat up. Why do you feel like you're doing particularly well now? The intermediate class didn't even call the new class monitor as the class monitor, and instead called him by his name. The class monitor was Suyu. On the side of the advanced class, the few enemies of this fellow had already become brothers. Even that foolish disciple of his had now treated the other party as a brother. Was there any justice left? Xia Huyo, Wu Lan, Jing Yunhui, Hu Zongqi, Lin Yao. A large group of people who might be his enemies should have been targeting him with all their might. Now, all that was left was to become sworn brothers. Lu Hong rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. Did this guy want to be a courtesan? Hu Zongqi and the rest of them were really useless. They were scum, defeated by others, yet they were still crying with gratitude. They were really drunk. He was speechless. At the side, Wu Qi was also paying attention to Suyu. After watching for a while, he said indifferently, if you were him, what would your next step be? Lu Hong blurted out, combining strength with gentleness. Wu Qi understood, he said with a faint smile, I understand. For Hu Zongqi, rope him in, befriend him, and be gentle with him. When you encounter someone who doesn't need to be roped in, use lightning-fast methods to instantly defeat him and display your strength. Hu Zongqi was even more grateful to him. His enemies would only fear him. Was this combining strength with gentleness? Lu Hong laughed dryly and said, I'm just saying. No, he thinks so too. Wu Qi said indifferently, he definitely thinks so because you guys are the same type of people. Give him a chance. In the Divine Literature Department alone, among the new students, who is more suitable than Lin Yao? In the next round, arrange for him to fight Lin Yao. Lu Hong coughed lightly. This was not possible. Lin Yao. Lin Yao had betrayed him. No, let Zheng Hong fight. Lu Hong also laughed. Didn't he want to be thunderous? It's too boring to grant him his wish. Let Zheng Hong fight with him, and I'll make sure that he doesn't succeed. It's really embarrassing. He had just defeated Hu Zongqi for 5 minutes, but in the end, he was defeated by Zheng Hong in the blink of an eye. No one would think that Zheng Hong was very powerful. They would only think that Suyu was really weak. Why do I have to grant you your wish all the time? Damn it! Always copying me, shameless. I will make you lose face once today, let you experience the cruel beating of society, let you not be able to pretend. Wu Qi said calmly, Zheng Hong. He is one of the 8 evildoers. If he loses to Suyu, then he will really help Suyu. Are you sure? Lose? Lu Hong calculated for a moment. Who cares? If he lost, it proved that Suyu was very strong, then he was even more valuable. If he won, it would prove that Suyu was just like that. It would be good to give Suyu some time to rise up. Anyway, I have nothing to lose. Thinking of this, Lu Hong laughed and didn't say anything else. As for how to arrange the battle between the two of them, if he couldn't do that, he would die. What a simple matter. As for the other researchers, they had already discovered it. Would they find trouble with him over such a small matter? It was an irregular competition to begin with. Moreover, if they were really strong, they did not need to care about who their opponent was. Just as he was thinking about this, Zheng Hong went up on stage. Below the stage, there was a wave of exclamations. Zheng Hong's opponent had also come out, Lin Yao. Lu Hong held his forehead, his head aching. F***ck. Was this meant to fulfill Su Yu's rhythm? Lin Yao was not weak either. He was an upper-class student. His willpower was fully charged at 70%. Among all the students present, not to mention how high his ranking was, it was not a problem for him to be in the top 50. In the end, 5 seconds. Zheng Hong calmly opened his eyes. Lin Yao's face was pale as he looked at Zheng Hong, full of shock and unwillingness. Zheng Hong was too strong. He had defeated him in an instant. On the field, the students were also shocked beyond words. He was faster than Xia Chan when she defeated Qi Chong. At this moment, Zheng Hong's strength was highlighted. Lin Yao was not a trash. In the last monthly exam of the advanced class, he did well. It was just that he had been criticized by many for the matter with Su Yu. However, no one denied his talent and strength. Lu Hong was speechless at this moment. The first round was really random. These two had met. His student had been defeated so miserably. Was he really going to arrange for Su Yu and Zheng Hong to fight? If Su Yu won, then Su Yu would step on Zheng Hong to get to the top. No, there was still him. His disciple had lost in an instant. If he defeated Zheng Hong, did that mean that he was very weak? Can Su Yu win? Lu Hong wasn't sure either. A rank 2 divine inscription wasn't bad, but Zheng Hong wasn't a good person either. His willpower was also very high, and he didn't know how many divine inscriptions he had drawn. I don't care anymore. Lu Hong decided to not care anymore. Whether he won or lost didn't matter to him. In any case, that was the case. If Su Yu really won, would that stupid disciple of mine worship Su Yu even more? Lu Hong suddenly thought of a problem. His expression changed a little. Damn it, it was very possible. Maybe this idiot thought that Su Yu helped him get revenge. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 517, Wind and Fire Forest 1. Chapter 517, Chapter 142 Wind and Fire Forest 1. The first round of the competition continued. The performance of the few monstrous students was very eye-catching. Jing Yunhui encountered a student who had just recovered and defeated the other party in the blink of an eye before proudly stepping down from the stage. Zhao Shiqi was as calm as water and easily won. Hu Qiusheng walked up the stage with a smile and walked down the stage with a smile. The monstrous student from the Divine Symbol student, Zhang Hao, also easily defeated the upper-class student from the Divine Literature Academy. The monstrous student from the Will Academy was actually a female student. It was somewhat out of Su Yu's expectations. Her name was Su Meng, and her surname was the same as Su Yu's. She had also easily defeated an upper-class genius. The 8 monstrous students had all easily won. From this, it could be seen that the results of the entrance examination were still very accurate. The others, like Wu Lan and Xia Huyo, had also won. It wasn't an easy victory. From the looks of it, they had been anxious for quite a while. Jia Mingjin and the others didn't participate. These fellows had come, but they had been chatting in a corner. It was unknown whether it was to conceal their strength or to disdain participating. At the end of the first round, there were only 99 people left. However, there weren't 99 people participating in the following matches. Among them, a few of them had expended too much willpower. In addition, the matches weren't considered a large-scale match, so a few chose to withdraw. In the second round, there were only 92 people participating. The evildoers didn't encounter any. Su Yu was also watching coldly from the side. A group of evildoers didn't encounter any of them. This made him wonder if there was something shady going on in the drawing of lots. Just as he was thinking, another person appeared beside Su Yu. Xia Huyo squeezed over again and whispered, "Su Yu, how is it? Can you enter the top 10? There are a lot of people who are betting on you not being able to enter the top 10. Are you confident? If not, I'll seal your bet." Su Yu's performance in the first round of fighting with Hu Zongqi was really not eye-catching. It had taken too long. Unlike Xing Yunhui and the others, who were able to easily finish off their opponents in the blink of an eye. Su Yu smiled and said, "Guess, if you give me half of it, I will think of a way to enter the top 10. Xia Huyo was speechless. This fellow only knew how to insist on money. The bet isn't big. It's just a few merit points to play with. Xia Huyo said helplessly, "You want a share of this too?" Su Yu ignored him. At this moment, the second round of drawing lots had begun. Just as he placed his hand into the metal bucket, a piece of paper was directly pasted onto his hand. Su Yu was just about to stir things up and draw another piece when the instructor suddenly took the metal bucket away and began the next lot drawing. Su Yu frowned and glanced at the instructor who was holding the box. He was not familiar with him, but he did not show anything unusual. Coincidence? It just so happened that this piece of paper was pasted on his hand. After the others finished their draws, Su Yu opened the paper and looked at it. It was number 2. Su Yu frowned. This was the representative. He was the first to go on stage in the second round. Who was number 1? Not far away. Jia Mingjin glanced at Su Yu and then looked at Lu Hong on the stage. He smiled so hard that his eyes narrowed. "Guys, this is cheating. Are you going to stop it?" The other pavilion elders had boring expressions on their faces. They could not be bothered with such a small matter. They had met it early and met it late. If they wanted to fight for first place, they would meet those who had the strength. If they did not have the strength, it was better to be eliminated early. No one said anything. Jia Mingjin smiled again when he saw the situation. "Little Fatty Xia is opening the game. Do you want to report him again?" "Old Jia, his game only has a few hundred merit points. You want to defame him?" Even some elders could not stand it anymore. "Speechless," he said, "such a small bid, can't we use a long line to catch the big fish? Once he feels that it's fine, wouldn't it be better to open a big bid and take it down? Once this group of people starts to enter the top 100 ranking one after another, this little fatty will definitely open the bid. One day, when the bid is big, we'll take it down in one go. Now, with a few hundred merit points, if they took down this little fatty again, the little fatty would probably be scared out of his wits." "That's right. I suspect that this little fatty opened this small bet just to test the attitude of the academy. I'm still wondering who reported him last time." The few of them laughed and started discussing. In the end, they decided to let Xia Huyo off. Very soon, they looked at Su Yu and Zheng Hong. The two of them are going up against each other. It should be that fellow Lu Hong's doing. Who will win? It's hard to say. After a few words, the second round of balloting came to an end. On the stage, Lu Hong had a smile on his face the whole time. Around him, a few researchers also noticed something and looked at him one after another. Lu Hong did not care and said in a clear voice, "The second round begins. This round is 92 to 46. The winners of the previous round will receive 5 merit points. This round is still the same. Let the competition begin." After saying that, everyone was waiting for the students of the first round of the second round to enter the stage. In the crowd, Su Yu gently exhaled. He stepped out. He had a feeling that this round's opponent might be one of the 8 people. The process of drawing lots was not normal. Of course, he was not afraid. He would meet them sooner or later. Su Yu stepped out. The next moment, not far away, Zheng Hong also stepped out. Zheng Hong. Su Yu. It was actually these 2 people. Many people were a little surprised, but they did not pay too much attention to it. Su Yu was obviously going to lose. He had fought against Hu Zongqi for a long time in the last round. Now, he was facing Zheng Hong, who had easily defeated Lin Yao. Not many people knew Zheng Hong's identity, but it was not as if no one knew. People like Wan Mingze and Xia Chan all knew. He was the disciple of Elder Sun and the grandson of Elder Zheng. He was a genius of the single god language department. Regardless of whether he was Zheng Yuming's grandson or not, Elder Sun was also an expert of the single god language department. Naturally, Zheng Hong could also be considered as one. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 518, Wind and Fire Forest 2. Chapter 518, Chapter 142 Wind and Fire Forest 2. In the crowd, Hu Zongqi shook his hand, feeling a little complicated. Just now, he was really looking forward to Su Yu winning. If he won, at least he could prove that he was not weak. But when he saw that his opponent was Zheng Hong, Hu Zongqi was a little depressed. He was going to lose for sure. Although he felt that Su Yu was still considered strong, compared to Zheng Hong, he was definitely inferior. It was over. He only hoped that Su Yu could hold on for a little longer. Otherwise, if Su Yu was defeated in an instant, he would lose face. On the other side, Lin Yao also had a sullen expression. Brother Su wouldn't lose as badly as he did, right? Zheng Hong was really very strong. If he had known that Su Yu would encounter him, he would have gone up and revealed some information to Su Yu just now. In the middle of the hall. On both sides of the round ball. When he saw that his opponent was Zheng Hong, Su Yu let out a light sigh. He had roughly guessed it. However, when he saw that it was really Zheng Hong, Su Yu still couldn't help but scold Lu Hong's entire family. In the second round, even if he won, the consumption of willpower would be incomparably huge. What should he do in the future? Lu Hong, this bastard. There was almost a true word behind his name. Zheng Hong was not too surprised to see that his opponent was Su Yu. When he drew the lots just now, he also felt that something was off. However, he did not expect Lu Hong to be so impatient, which made it hard for him to say anything. Su Yu, let's go together. Zheng Hong did not want to say anything more. It did not matter who his opponent was. As a genius, he had the confidence to sweep through everything, especially his peers. The two of them did not say anything more. This time, Su Yu was not so hypocritical as to cheer for Zheng Hong. At the same time, his willpower entered the mystic realm. On the sphere, gold and green were each half. In the mystic realm, Su Yu and Zheng Hong appeared at the same time. The two of them looked at each other. In the next moment, Su Yu's illusory realm appeared, and lightning struck. The world in Zheng Hong's eyes was different from Su Yu's. At this moment, he saw that Su Yu was still smiling at him on the spot, and he did not see the lightning. However, Zheng Hong was much sharper than Hu Zongqi. His expression changed. His figure moved and instantly disappeared on the spot. Just as he disappeared, the lightning struck down. Zheng Hong did not see the lightning. However, he could feel that the place he had just left had a huge destructive force. He directly closed his eyes and no longer looked at Su Yu, who was still smiling on the other side. A large word suddenly appeared in front of him. Wind. A gust of violent wind swept over, and Su Yu's illusory realm trembled. The wind was like a blade, and the illusory realm began to shatter. Although it was not a Tier 2 divine script, Zheng Hong's willpower was much stronger than Su Yu's. In the blink of an eye, the illusory realm was shattered by him using the wind blade, revealing the location of Su Yu's willpower, which was not far from him. Zheng Hong suddenly opened his eyes, somewhat surprised. This fellow's illusion was quite strong. Su Yu controlled lightning to come over. His killing intent was brazen, as cold as an ice mountain. Rumble. The lightning exploded, but the soundless lightning naturally formed a sound in Zheng Hong's ears. Fire. At this moment, a monstrous flame rose, accompanied by a hurricane, burning through the void and covering Su Yu. The great fire met the lightning, directly covering the lightning. Su Yu quickly retreated, and in the next moment, his eyes focused. In front of him, a huge mountain appeared. Wind and Fire Mountain. 3 divine runes, all divine race divine runes. Su Yu was secretly shocked. This guy was so strong. There was an ancient saying, Wind and Fire Mountain Forest, swift as the wind, swift as the fire, immovable as the mountain, Su Rulin. This guy, although he didn't form a divine runes battle technique, it was a sign that he had formed a system. Was there a 4th divine text? The huge mountain pressed down on Su Yu. At this moment, Su Yu couldn't care too much. The moment the huge mountain pressed down, a black long blade appeared. The lightning and illusion from before all disappeared. On the long blade, there were 4 dim light spots. That was the foundation of the divine text. The 5th one was almost impossible to see clearly. The Gin divine text was too dim. The long saber expanded in the wind. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a huge saber that covered the sky as it slashed down. Boom! Even though the mystic realm was silent, both of their minds were shaken. Su Yu's figure instantly became much more scattered. The huge mountain in front of him was directly shattered by him, and the long saber also became much dimmer. Outside. Zheng Hong spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Su Yu's face was deathly pale, and sweat poured down like rain. The onlookers were extremely shocked. At this moment, the golden and green colors were rolling on the ball. Obviously, the 2 of them were fighting intensely inside. Everything happened extremely quickly. Zheng Hong fell behind. Many people were extremely shocked. At this moment, the golden color had just taken a slight advantage and occupied some of the areas that originally belonged to the green color. Everyone was extremely surprised. Su Yu had actually slightly suppressed Zheng Hong. Zheng Hong vomited blood while Su Yu's face was deathly pale. Clearly, the 2 of them had just engaged in an intense battle. This time, many people's hearts were raised. They had originally thought that Su Yu would definitely lose, but they had not expected such a reversal. It was not just the students. This time, the researchers were all interested. They all looked at the ball and then at Zheng Hong. Someone said in a low voice, "The divine runes have been damaged. Su Yu's destructive power is so strong. The 2 of them have met their match. There's no rush. Zheng Hong's full willpower is close to 90%. His destructive power is even stronger, and he can last longer." As soon as he finished speaking, the golden color on the ball rapidly rolled and continuously invaded the green territory. This caused the researcher who spoke to stop speaking, and his face was filled with astonishment. Another forceful fight. Zheng Hong kept vomiting blood. Su Yu's mouth was also bleeding, and his face was frighteningly pale. Obviously, the 2 of them had continued to fight intensely just now, causing both sides to be heavily injured and exhausted. What happened? In the arcane document realm. Su Yu held a huge black saber in his hand, cutting through the heaven and earth, cutting through mountains and flames. A hurricane whistled, and raging flames boiled. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 519, Wind and Fire Forest 3. Chapter 519, Chapter 142, Wind and Fire Forest. Black flames seemed to erupt from Su Yu's body. It wasn't flames, but an amplification of the kill character's killing intent. Killing intent filled the sky as it continuously attacked Zheng Hong. Zheng Hong's expression was unsightly. Su Yu had used a divine text battle technique. The divine text battle technique hadn't been fully filled yet, so its lethality wasn't too strong. However, that was only relative. At this moment, Su Yu's divine text had been fused a little through that battle technique. The combination of a few divine texts made Su Yu even stronger. For divine texts, 2 level 2 divine texts. Damn it! Zheng Hong cursed in his heart. Could it be that this fellow didn't sketch out the divine texts and specifically went to nurture the divine texts, but wasn't this too fast? 2 level 2 divine texts. That killing intent shook his willpower and continuously destroyed it. The illusion constantly interfered with his judgment. He could tell that the 2 divine inscriptions, one, blood, and the other, kill, were both human divine inscriptions. This fellow had actually cultivated the human divine inscriptions to the 2nd stage. Zheng Hong gritted his teeth. In the next moment, the hurricane disappeared, the flames extinguished, and the mountain disappeared. 3 divine inscriptions appeared in front of him. Zheng Hong gritted his teeth, and the 3 divine inscriptions instantly fused together, forming a long spear. Bang! He directly held the spear and charged towards Su Yu. With a thrust of the spear, the wind-type divine inscriptions increased in speed, the mountain-type divine inscriptions increased in strength, and the fire-type divine inscriptions burned. Su Yu only felt as if a huge mountain was charging towards him at an extremely fast speed. Fusion. Zheng Hong, this fellow, was also fusing divine inscriptions. Su Yu roared. Even if he could not roar, he still roared wildly. The long saber slashed down, the thunder origin saber. Slash. Boom. Both of their illusory bodies trembled violently. Su Yu's body continued to collapse, and so did Zheng Hong's. Outside. Both of their bodies were also trembling violently. Su Yu's mouth was spewing blood, and his brows were tightly furrowed. Zheng Hong's willpower fluctuated, and his blood dyed the ground red. A few researchers had already walked over, and someone shouted in a low voice, "Stop it. These 2 brats are fighting inside, and the divine runes are about to collapse." At this moment, the 2 colors kept rolling. No one had the advantage. Lu Hong frowned. On the other side, Wuxia said calmly, "Why stop? As a genius, we all have our own pride. We can lose, as long as we don't lose unjustly. Who hasn't been injured before?" As a genius, she had the right to say these words. If they really wanted to stop the fight, the 2 fellows inside would withdraw themselves. At this moment, Xia Chan and the others walked over with solemn expressions. Zheng Hong was not weak. Even among the 8 of them, Zheng Hong was definitely not the weakest. In the end, he was now evenly matched with Su Yu. In fact, he was even at a slight disadvantage. Yes, they could vaguely see that the golden color was stable. However, the green color was a little weak. Su Yu was like a perpetual motion machine. His willpower continued to flow into the ball, while Zheng Hong was a little intermittent. At this moment, the Lingyan Realm researcher from the Weapon Forging Academy suddenly asked, "Does Su Yu know my teacher?" Lu Hong glanced at him and smiled faintly. "He is a secondary weapon forging cultivator. He is Elder Zhao's secondary disciple." This Ling Yun looked like a middle-aged man. When he heard this, he was a little surprised. Minor, he actually didn't pay too much attention to it. He had been busy recently and only had time to lead the team today to take a look. When he heard this, he looked at Su Yu's pale face, but his willpower was still unceasing. Suddenly, he said, "Su Yu has won. If Zheng Hong continues to pester him, he will only get himself seriously injured. You guys can do as you see fit." As soon as he said this, many people looked at him. Those students were all extremely surprised. Suyu won. There was still no winner yet, right? Moreover, they could not see who would win at the moment. The middle-aged man did not speak. However, he was surprised in his heart. Did he cultivate the God-expanding technique? Teacher actually passed down his God-expanding technique? After all, even he did not receive the true inheritance. Would teacher pass down the technique so carelessly? Could it be that he hasn't passed down the technique yet, but it has helped him expand his mind? This fellow, his willpower hasn't even reached 60% of its full capacity, yet he is able to defeat Zheng Hong, who has nearly 90% of his full capacity. How many hammers does he have to bear? His willpower was at least 1.5 times that of the other party. His willpower was at least 1/3 larger than Zheng Hong's. If his willpower was amplified, he would at least be able to withstand his teacher's hammers. The middle-aged man thought of something and didn't say anything else. The others didn't end the match rashly either. Instead, they watched on silently. Naturally, they had their own thoughts, and their emotions were fluctuating. Suyu was actually able to defeat Zheng Hong. At this moment, it had been nearly 3 minutes since the two of them exchanged blows. They were going all out. The golden and green colors were boiling, and the round ball was constantly changing colors. Zheng Hong, on the other hand, felt that he had no strength left to continue. On the other hand, Suyu felt that he could continue. What kind of freak was this? Some of the researchers who had heard some rumors looked at this researcher from the Weapon Forging Academy. Was it a cultivation technique passed down by Zhao Li? In the mystical document realm, Zheng Hong and Suyu's bodies were already in tatters. Neither of them wanted to admit defeat. On the contrary, Suyu's battle intent was getting stronger and stronger, and his killing intent was getting denser and denser. Battle and kill divine runes were all divine runes that were sublimated in battle, and the more he fought, the more excited he became. In the secret realm, killing intent was overflowing. His battle intent was boiling. On the other hand, Zheng Hong was a little weak. Zheng Hong took a glance at Suyu and frowned. It was one thing for Suyu's willpower to be long, but the key point was that his destructive power was not weak either. This was not something that could be expressed by having more than 50% of his willpower at full capacity. It was probably close to 70% or even more of his willpower at full capacity. In addition to the divine literature battle technique, it was actually not much weaker than him. God expanding technique? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 520, Wind and Fire Forest 4. Chapter 520, Chapter 142, Wind and Fire Forest 4. Zheng Hong thought of this problem. His grandfather had once told him that he wanted to become stronger and better at long-lasting battles. It would be best if he could learn the soul-expanding technique. Unfortunately, Zhao Li did not spread it to outsiders, so he did not have the chance to learn it. Now, it seemed that Suyu had learned it. No wonder he can maintain 4 divine runes and 2 grade 2. As he was thinking, his vision suddenly turned dark. It wasn't the kind of illusion. It was really dark. One had to know that this was a body formed by willpower. How could there be signs of blackness in front of his eyes? An illusion could only create that kind of scene here, such as the dark night, but it couldn't cover his eyes. What was that? Zheng Hong was shocked. His willpower burst out again. The darkness in front of him was quickly broken by him. He saw the light again. And at this moment, Suyu was already charging over with a knife. Zheng Hong was about to counterattack, but he suddenly realized that something was wrong. This was the mystical text realm. The body was fake. Where did the shadow come from? Yes, the shadow. A shadow actually appeared under Suyu's feet at this moment. He did not have time to react for a moment. Zheng Hong was shocked. The hand holding the gun did not know whether to attack Su Yu himself or his shadow. In this moment of hesitation, Su Yu's shadow suddenly wrapped around his entire body. The long blade instantly slashed down. Bang! A loud sound rang out in the hearts of the two. Zheng Hong's body was completely shattered. With some unwillingness and some doubt, before his willpower retreated, he stared at the shadow on the ground. F***ck. There was still one more divine inscription. That bastard Su Yu had grasped 5 divine inscriptions. How long had he been in the school? How was that possible? Didn't they say that he had only been in contact with divine inscriptions for a few months? Moreover, he had never discovered this divine inscription before. Divine inscriptions related to shadows. Zheng Hong carried some helplessness as he completely disappeared from the secret text realm. Pooh! Another mouthful of blood spurted out. Zheng Hong opened his eyes. At this moment, everyone else was dumbstruck. The golden color completely covered the round ball. Zheng Hong withdrew. Su Yu had won. In the next moment, Su Yu opened his eyes. He was panting heavily. The two of them looked at each other and didn't say anything. Su Yu had grasped 5 divine inscriptions, and 2 were at the second rank. As for Zheng Hong, he had also grasped 3 divine inscriptions, and they were all very powerful. Perhaps he wanted to condense 4 divine inscriptions to form a system, but it seemed that he hadn't succeeded yet. After a few seconds, Su Yu panted and cupped his hands. Thank you for letting me win. Zheng Hong nodded slightly and didn't say anything else. He felt a little regretful and disappointed, but he didn't care too much. His strength hadn't reached the peak yet, and he could only draw out another Linward divine script to challenge the top 100 list. Moreover, he had absolute confidence that he could make it onto the list. Right now, he could only say that his divine script was still half finished. Losing to Su Yu, he could accept it. If he were to fight with all his might, his body that was at the Qianjun 7th stage was even stronger than Su Yu's. However, he might not necessarily be afraid of Su Yu. He's at the Qianjun 5th stage. If he doesn't consume his innate blood essence, he won't be my match. Innate blood essence, it's completely useless when he reaches the Wuxia realm. Zheng Hong thought in his heart and did not say anything harsh. These words were not suitable for them, so they would naturally become stronger when they needed to. Zheng Hong's injuries were not light and his willpower had been exhausted. He did not stay any longer and turned around to walk out. He had lost. It did not matter if he lost once. If he could get up and stand up, then he still had a chance. He was afraid that he would not be able to stand up. In the main hall. The next round of the competition had not started for a long time. Everyone looked at Su Yu with surprise on their faces. Su Yu had won. This guy had actually won against Zheng Hong. Su Yu ignored them. He smiled at Hu Zongqi over there and nodded. He then looked at Lin Yao, who was not far away. When he saw that Su Yu was extremely excited, he also smiled. However, he hid it very well and did not reveal anything. Lin Yao and Hu Zongqi were both a little excited. Su Yu had won. Hu Zongqi only felt that he was extremely happy. Su Yu had won against Zheng Hong. He looked at the time. It was 4 minutes. He beat Zheng Hong faster than he beat him. What did this mean? Did it mean that he was stronger than Zheng Hong? Of course not. It meant that Su Yu had given him face. It was a huge face. According to Hu Zongqi's judgment, he was inferior to Lin Yao. If that was the case, Zheng Hong beat Lin Yao for 5 seconds, and Su Yu beat Zheng Hong. And he was weaker than Lin Yao. 3 seconds. Hu Zongqi swallowed his saliva. If Su Yu did not give him face, he would be killed in 3 seconds. That would be too shameless. At this moment, Hu Zongqi felt extremely good. He suddenly shouted, "Su Yu, he's really a monster." This was the real monster student. Previously, Hu Zongqi, who had always questioned the unfairness of Su Yu, was the first to say that Su Yu was the real monster. He had slapped his own face, but he was willing to do so. He deserved to be slapped in the face. It was better to be slapped by himself than to be slapped by others. On the other side, Lin Yao was also delighted. Brother Su had avenged him. What was Zheng Hong crazy for? He still lost in the end. They were delighted. Su Yu had a smile on his face, but he was helpless in his heart. He had consumed too much energy. Moreover, he had revealed all his trump cards. Fortunately, it was the first round of the second round, and he could still cultivate to recover. Otherwise, he would not be able to participate in the third round. Zheng Hong is very strong, at least in terms of willpower. He is stronger than Jing Yunhui. If I draw another divine text and form a wind and fire mountain forest, I'm afraid I won't be a match for him. Su Yu knew his own limits. If he drew another divine text, Zheng Hong's divine text would truly become a system, and he would definitely not be a match for him. However, that was in the future. Zheng Hong was strong, so could he not be? If they were to really fight in the real world, his physical body would be stronger than Zheng Hong's, so he would not be afraid of him. As long as you win. Su Yu glanced at Lu Hong. Lu Hong smiled at him and nodded slightly, as if he had granted his wish. This made Su Yu somewhat speechless. Were you trying to deceive me, saying that you were deliberately giving me a chance to show off? Screw your grandpa. I don't want this chance. Su Yu cursed inwardly. There are still 7 evildoer students. Since they've met each other, I'll admit that you're helping me. Otherwise, you, Lu Hong, are a bastard. You're deliberately trying to trick me. Don't think that I really can't see through it. Su Yu cursed inwardly for a while and began to recover his willpower. At this moment, the other people looked at Su Yu with completely different gazes. After defeating Qin Chi, Su Yu could only say that his luck was not bad. His talent and blood essence was very good, but he had defeated Zheng Hong in the God text competition. This guy could be considered a truly monstrous student, on the same level as those people. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 521, Top 11. Chapter 521, Chapter 143, Top 11. Su Yu closed his eyes and rested his mind, no longer caring about the others. He didn't even watch the match between the few freaks anymore, nor did he see anything special about it. Even if he watched it, it would be a waste. It might be a little difficult to get first place. Su Yu thought to himself. Unless, after consuming the soul-devouring worm's blood essence, his willpower would carry a portion of the corrosive ability and devour the other party's willpower. However, this kind of thing was not bad for the enemy. They were all classmates now. Even if it was just the divine literature department, the only one Su Yu actually wanted to make serious, was probably only Huang Qifeng. Including Qin Chi, Zheng Hong, and the others, Su Yu actually didn't think of doing anything to them. If people don't attack me, I won't attack them. On Huang Qifeng's side, Su Yu wasn't even prepared to say how he was going to do. Just like his senior sister, he would just lie down for a few months. Soul-devouring bug. Su Yu muttered in his heart and continued to close his eyes to recover his willpower. I have to get the 5 Elements clan's blood essence as soon as possible. I have to strengthen my willpower as soon as possible. The competition continued. The dark scene was very obvious. In the second round, the few evildoers didn't encounter each other. The students weren't stupid either. They were cursing in their hearts and grinning on their faces. It was normal. Who asked you not to be a seed? In any case, you were going to be killed sooner or later. If you had met him earlier, you would have met him earlier. It was a pity that you did not have the chance to pick up the scraps. On the other hand, Su Yu, he had just defeated Zheng Hong and had consumed a lot of energy. In the next round, he would have a chance to pick up the scraps when he met Su Yu. In this round, Wu Lan was unlucky enough to meet Wan Mingze. Wan Mingze might have given her face. They were in a stalemate for nearly 3 minutes before he defeated Wu Lan. Wu Lan's face was filled with frustration. She had lost so miserably. Su Yu had made a comeback against Zheng Hong. She felt that there was hope for her as well. After meeting Wan Mingze, she still wanted to make a comeback to show Su Yu. Reality proved that, she had thought too much. None of the few evildoers had made a comeback. The opponents she had met were all easily defeated. The 46 rounds of the competition only lasted for about an hour. After an hour, although Su Yu had not fully recovered, he had almost fully recovered. Su Yu opened his eyes and let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it had taken quite a long time. Otherwise, he would have lost to anyone in his previous state. Beside him, Hu Zongqi was still there. When he saw Su Yu open his eyes, he asked excitedly, "Su Yu, how is it?" Su Yu smiled and nodded. He thanked him, "It's all right. I've almost recovered. Thank you. I'll have to trouble you to protect me." "No way." Hu Zongqi said embarrassedly, "Here, the teachers are all here. Who dares to cause trouble?" Harassing Su Yu right under the teacher's nose and not allowing him to recover, "Aren't you afraid that the researchers will find trouble with you?" Su Yu smiled and did not say anything. He looked around and said, "It's all over. Yes, the third round is about to begin." Hu Zongqi looked at Su Yu and said in a slightly strange manner, "Su Yu, you actually defeated Zheng Hong. Isn't your willpower a little weak?" Su Yu smiled. "It's fine. It is indeed a little weak, but my willpower is relatively long and I have drawn out a lot of divine runes. There are also tier 2 divine runes. Zheng Hong is actually not weak, but he was a little careless." Hu Zongqi nodded slightly, he sighed with emotion. "In any case, it's right that you're very strong. My brother said that the few evildoers of this batch might actually have the strength of the top 100 rankings now. They're even stronger than the previous batch. You've defeated Zheng Hong, and your path of the fighter is also at the 3rd stage of the Thousand June realm. If you reach the 7th stage, you'll have the confidence to kill your way into the top 100 rankings. 3rd stage of the Thousand June realm. This was the understanding of ordinary students. The 5th stage of the Thousand June realm was the understanding of some disciples from large factions. Of course, it might be the 6th stage now. The 6th level, then not many people knew about it. Su Yu smiled and said in a low voice, "I'm not just the 3rd level. Remember to keep it a secret." Hu Zongqi was slightly surprised, but then he was greatly moved. Did he believe in him? Otherwise, why would he say these words to him? "You're a good brother, don't worry." Hu Zongqi smiled and was happy in his heart. Su Yu was as honest and reliable as always. The incident from before was all in the past. Now that he thought about it, he felt a little ashamed. As he spoke, he said in a low voice, "Su Yu, my brother's relationship with Lu He and the others is quite good. Don't worry, the next time they have any news against you, I'll help you keep an eye out for it. If there's anything, I'll let you know." Su Yu immediately revealed a look of joy and said in a low voice, "Then I'll have to trouble you, Zongqi." After he said that, Su Yu's eyes turned and he said in a low voice, "Zongqi, I have something to tell you later. Let's have a chat." Hu Zongqi was stunned. What was it? However, seeing how mysterious Su Yu was, he thought about it and did not ask. He would talk about it later. As they spoke, the 3rd round of the competition began. The lottery box was brought over once again. Among the 46 winners, there were a few who were unable to continue fighting and gave up on the competition. 2 rounds of willpower had been exhausted. Under the circumstances where the gap between them was not too big, it was very difficult for them to recover from consecutive battles. This was especially so for the few who drew the last round. Even if they were the winners, at this moment, they still carried some hope in their hearts to draw lots, hoping that they could be placed at the back. If they were placed at the front, they would not be able to fight at all. Suyu stared at the tube that drew lots, then looked at the coach. Suddenly, his eyes widened as he looked behind him. The instructor's expression changed slightly as he turned around. There was nothing. When he turned around again, Suyu had already drawn the lots. There was a smile on his face as if nothing had happened just now. He was speechless. The instructor didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't say anything more and walked to the next person. Suyu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He glanced at Lu Hong on the stage. I told you to continue scheming against me. Now that I've meddled for a long time, I'll admit it even if I draw a monster student. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 522, Top 12. Chapter 522, Chapter 143, Top 12. On the stage. Lu Hong was also speechless. Why are you looking at me like that? I didn't do anything this round. Besides, if I really did do something, would this little trick of yours be of any use to me? At the side, Wuxia was also watching with interest. She chuckled and said, this fellow is very interesting. Lu Hong, you seem to have met your match. It's a pity that, you were born 2 years too late. Being born a few years earlier would definitely be very interesting. Lu Hong did not care about what she said, he smiled faintly and said, a few years earlier. If it was a few years earlier, it would indeed be very interesting. However, it's not too late now. In the path of cultivation, there are as many people who are able to catch up to others. You and I are just flying in the air. Above us are Ling Yun and Shanghai, who knows if he will be able to catch up to us. You think highly of him? Wuxia looked at him strangely. Lu Hong didn't seem like much on the surface. He liked to laugh, and he was also very arrogant. He looked silly. In the eyes of many people in the academy, Lu Hong was quite stupid. He had fought against Bai Feng for many years, and he had lost more than he had won. Of course, everyone knew that it wasn't easy for him to last against Bai Feng for a few years. However, Wuxia knew that Lu Hong was a shrewd person. He was a very arrogant person. He didn't take a fancy to this person or that person. There weren't many people that he would take a fancy to. Including himself, in Lu Hong's eyes, he was probably a person with decent strength and average intelligence. Some people were arrogant on the surface, while others were arrogant in their bones. Lu Hong was one of the latter. Lu Hong said with a faint smile, not really. It's still too young. Let's wait and see. We'll talk about it when we're in the air. In the air? Wuxia said softly, you know about the Great Zhou Manor, right? Will he be able to successfully reach the air? I've heard of some, but I didn't pay much attention to it. Lu Hong said calmly, it's not a big deal. Unless there's really an invincible person in the Divine Literature Department. The Multi-Divine Literature Department will not completely destroy the inheritance. A single Divine Literature Department is too little. The Multi-Divine Literature Department has at least had an instance where the sun and moon were invincible. That guy is just flying in the sky. When he reaches the sun and moon, will he still be invincible in all 4 directions? Wuxia nodded and smiled. Invincible in all 4 directions? If he really comes, forget it, I might be Ling Yun. Otherwise, I want that little guy to know what a tragedy is. Invincible quartet? Did he ask her about it? She wasn't even convinced by Xia Yuan, let alone a newcomer. Bai Feng was also a genius in the multi-god literature department. She had never felt that she was inferior to Bai Feng. While they were chatting on the stage, below the stage, Suyu drew number 12 and was the sixth to appear. In this round, there were a total of 20 matches. The others withdrew. A match would last for 3 to 5 minutes, and the shortest would end in a few seconds. Suyu didn't pay attention to the match at the start, so he couldn't see anything. However, his attention soon turned to that side. Xia Huyo. This fellow had entered the third round without making a sound. Now, it was his turn to go on stage. Suyu took a look. He didn't know Xia Huyo's opponent, and he wasn't from the Divine Literature Academy. He turned his head to look at Hu Zongqi, who hadn't left yet, and said in a low voice, "Who was Xia Huyo's opponent in the previous round?" "A middle school student from the Divine Pill Academy." Suyu nodded slightly, as if he was deep in thought. He took a glance at Xia Huyo, who was laughing as he walked onto the stage. "Chao Hui, you're a fellow from the Will Academy. Why are you cultivating divine literature? Why don't you just admit defeat?" Xia Huyo wasn't in a hurry to compete. He laughed and said, "Admit defeat. How about I give you 3 merit points?" The student who was called Chao Hui glanced at him speechlessly. On the stage, a researcher berated him, "Xia Huyo, have a good competition. What nonsense are you spouting?" Xia Huyo laughed and said, "Forget it. I don't know how to do business. I'm very strong. I only entered the top 20 after winning this round. I have to at least keep one of the top 10. Chao Hui, I'm sorry. When you come back and buy heavenly and earthly treasures from me, I'll give you a 15% discount." Chao Hui's face stiffened. He could not help but curse in a low voice, "I didn't buy them from you. Sorry. Xia Huyo hurriedly apologized, "Yes, I didn't buy them. I was wrong. Next time, I'll give you a 10% discount. Treat it as an apology." Chao Hui was completely speechless. He felt helpless in his heart. "Forget it. Alright, 10% discount. I'll remember it. Damn fatty, the next time I look for you, if you don't give me a 10% discount, I won't let you off." The two of them quickly began to exchange blows. Suyu even suspected that the two of them had gone in to trade. In any case, what they were doing inside could not be seen by the people outside. They could not speak, so they could just type. At this moment, Jia Mingjun and the others also had a headache. Lu Hong's black market business is not doing well recently. His shares have all been taken by this kid. This kid is very slippery. The school has checked several times, but they haven't found anything. There have been a few times when they almost caught him, but he ran away. Last time, we tricked Lu Hong, and he took advantage of us. Just like his second master. The female pavilion elder ridiculed, and then said, "But this kid, when he does business, he targets certain groups of people. Is he starting to build the foundation of this generation's mannerhead now? Not everyone could do Xia Huyo's business." This was something that the pavilion masters were paying attention to as well. For example, Suyu, Jing Yunhui, and the others were Xia Huyo's targets. Since Chao Hui was able to enter the third round, he was a genius as well. His strength wasn't weak either, so he was within the scope of this fellow's business partners. As for the others, putting aside whether they could afford it or not, Xia Huyo might not even be able to do it. Jia Mingjun nodded. "Once Master Xia comes out of seclusion, I'm afraid there's hope to enter eternity. He won't stay in the great Xia manor for many years." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 523, Top 13. Chapter 523, Chapter 143, Top 1, Can he take over? Xia Yuan has entered Lingyun. It's hard to say. Jia Mingzhen glanced at Xia Huyo. A moment later, he said, "This kid. It's hard to say how strong he is. As for becoming the manor head, although his strength is very important, other things are important too. As long as his strength keeps up, the key is still to see the big picture and be able to convince the masses." Xia Yuan might be strong, but there were some things that were hard to say. He was too strong. Although he suppressed his generation, it didn't mean that he had been suppressed. By phone, Wuxia, and the others, who would submit to him. Of course, these weren't the key. The key was that Xia Yuan's personality was a little extreme. Otherwise, he wouldn't have tortured the 2nd to 10th rankers twice before he broke through. The manor head was an expert, but an expert might not necessarily be able to become the manor head. Xia Yuan can't be taken advantage of. In my opinion, his personality is somewhat similar to manor head Xia. Unless he has the strength of manor head Xia and can suppress everything, otherwise, with his personality, he isn't suitable to be the manor head. As they spoke, Xia Huyo and Chao Hui dawdled for a while. After a few minutes, Xia Huyo opened his eyes while panting. He cursed, "Chao Hui, you are just a student of the Will Division, yet you still hit 3 divine inscriptions. Are you crazy?" Chao Hui's face darkened. Xia Huyo smiled and said, "Forget it, I've finally won against you. I'm happy today. Look for me later and I'll give you a 20% discount." Chao Hui was speechless once again. He had lost. The key point was that this fatty was really a little infuriating. However, when he thought of a 20% discount. "Alright, I'll swallow this anger." The sparring between the two of them was as if it was a joke. The others did not know whether to laugh or cry. Xia Chan was the next to enter the arena. She shot a glance at Xia Huyo. Xia Chan's expression was not too good. She acted as if she did not know him and directly walked past him. "Embarrassing." Xia Huyo chuckled. He did not care and said loudly, "Little sister, you can do it. Everyone, look closely. This is my little sister. This year's prodigy student will definitely be in the top 3 this time. If she can't enter the top 3, if she can't enter, then she can't enter." Xia Huyo's words made everyone burst into laughter. Xia Chan's face turned green. "Who the hell is your little sister?" With anger, the student who encountered her was considered unlucky this time. Xia Chan directly entered with her willpower. In less than 10 seconds, her opponent spat out blood and exited the arcane realm. She looked at Xia Huyo resentfully. "Why did you provoke Xia Chan? You almost killed me. You weren't weak even after entering the 3rd round, yet you were miserably beaten." Xia Huyo winked and made a 9. That person also understood and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Forget it, a 10% discount was not bad. After all, he was not as good as Xia Chan, so it was normal for him to be defeated. Below the stage, Suyu wanted to laugh. "This guy. Xia Huyo. Zongqi, do you know which branch of the Xia family he is from?" Hu Zongqi was now easy to talk to. He smiled and said, "It seems to be passed down from the branch of cousin Wang of Great Xia. The relationship between him and the direct descendant of the Xia family is a bit distant. Xia Chan is the authentic direct descendant of the Xia family. Her grandfather is Lord Xia Ho, the cousin of Lord Xia." Suyu nodded. He had heard of this as well. Xia Chan's branch was indeed the direct descendant, the great-granddaughter of the great Xia emperor. She had an invincible great-grandfather. However, Xia Huyo should have a good relationship with Xia Chan. The source of his goods was most likely related to the Xia Trading Company, and the person in charge of the Xia Trading Company was none other than Lord Xia Ho. As they spoke, another 2 rounds of competition passed. It was Su Yu's turn again. This time, Su Yu's luck was not bad. His opponent was a student from the Divine Pill Academy, and his face was still somewhat pale. It was obvious that he had not recovered from the previous round of competition. When he saw that his opponent was Su Yu, the other party had been hoping that Su Yu wouldn't recover. However, when he saw that Su Yu's face was as calm as usual, a disappointed expression appeared on his face. There was no hope for him to pick up the scraps, but Su Yu had picked up the scraps for him. Within a minute, Su Yu had defeated the other party. It was an easy victory. The illusory realm bewitched the other party for a moment before revealing his true body. With an apologetic smile, he killed the other party with a lightning strike. A minute was considered as giving him face. After being forced out of the illusory realm, the other party smiled bitterly. Clearly, he knew that there was a huge gap between them. Thus, without saying anything else, he clasped his fist and retreated. In the third round, the top 40 would advance to the top 20. The top 20 rounds only lasted for around 20 minutes, and it ended cleanly. Other than the unlucky Xing Hong, the other 7 had advanced to the next round as well. Su Yu, Xia Huyo, and a few students from the Academy of Divine Arts had also advanced to the next round as well. After 3 rounds, it took about 3.5 hours. At this moment, it was almost 11 o'clock. On the stage, Lu Hong suddenly said, "Don't draw lots for the 4th round. Including Su Yu, Xia Huyo, and Huang Fan, there will be 10 people in a group. The other 10 people can challenge any one of them. If they win, they will be in the top 10. Many people's eyes flickered, and they looked at Xia Huyo and Huang Fan. Xia Huyo's face turned green as he hurriedly said, "I'm in middle school. I'm not a top student or a monstrous genius. Why did you assign me to this group? You're a member of the Xia family. Is this enough?" Lu Hong said indifferently, "A member of the Xia family. Can't you hold on to such a small matter? If you can't enter the top 10, then it's because you're incompetent. Don't tell me that you'll be guaranteed to enter the top 10. That's fine too." Xia Huyo blurted out. Lu Hong's face darkened. Many people glared at Xia Huyo. Xia Chan even turned her head away from him. It was too embarrassing. Xia Huyo was also depressed. Was this really embarrassing? Lu Hong had said it himself. Lu Hong also ignored him. He looked at the other 10 people and said, "Pick any one of them. Don't fight for the top 10. Fighting with some geniuses and evildoers is a better opportunity. Usually, when you spar with them, they don't bother with you. Now is the chance." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 524, Top 14. Chapter 524, Chapter 143, Top 14. As soon as these words were said, many people began to ponder. Everyone's gaze quickly turned to those freakish students. Just as Lu Hong had said, these people wouldn't bother with them when they sparred with them. Now, it was an opportunity. Even if they chose Xia Huyo and the others, they might not be able to enter the top 10. After that, they wouldn't have the chance to fight with the freakish students. I choose Wan Mingze. Very soon, someone looked at Wan Mingze with a burning gaze. Clearly, the other party did not want to fight with Wan Mingze on a whim. He had already had this thought in mind. I choose Jing Yunhui. Jing Yunhui crossed his arms and said lazily, "Have you thought it through? My main goal is to kill. If your willpower is severely damaged, don't blame me for not reminding you." No one paid any attention to him. Jing Yunhui's willpower could only be said to be average. He was not the strongest. What was there to be arrogant about? It was as if no one was afraid of him. Very soon, Su Yu had an opponent. It was a student from his class. Below the stage, Wu Lan had a look of regret on her face. She did not enter the top 20. Otherwise, she could have chosen as she pleased. She wanted to choose Su Yu too. She just could not accept it. How did Su Yu become so strong so quickly? The battle for the top 10 began very quickly. The first one was Xia Huyo. The fellow had a sad expression on his face. After exchanging blows with the other party for 7 to 8 minutes, he finally managed to defeat the other party. Panting heavily, he collapsed to the ground, seemingly powerless to continue fighting. Su Yu was a little doubtful. Was this fellow really that strong? Every time he won, he would put on a half-dead look, and soon, he would be full of vigor and vitality again. He didn't want to guess. It was normal for him to have some trump cards. He had his own. The second was Wan Mingze. This fellow was as relaxed as before. Once again, he easily won, and the consumption wasn't too great. The other geniuses behind him were the same as well. They were all very strong. As for Su Yu, he didn't use any illusions in this round. The Tier 2-inch kill word divine prose, coupled with the Gin word divine prose, intimidated him with killing intent and launched a shadow attack. He quickly defeated the other party. This round, he did not delay for too long. The main thing was that in the next round, there was a high chance that he would meet those freaks. He had to conserve his strength. The competition passed round after round. In the blink of an eye, the results of the top 10 had been obtained. Xia Huyo and Su Yu had both won. The other 7 had also won. Only that Huang Fan had been overturned by a student from the Will Academy and was unable to enter the top 10. The atmosphere gradually became a little tense. The top 10 had been decided. Including Su Yu, a total of 8 genius class students had advanced. At this moment, in their eyes, Su Yu was a genius class student. Those researchers were also interested. The top 10 had been decided, and the following wins and losses would be interesting to watch. It was unlike before, where there was almost no competition and there was already a result without any anticipation. Lu Hong glanced at the 10 students and said with a smile, "Does anyone wish to withdraw?" "Teacher, I will withdraw." The students of the Will Division chose to withdraw immediately. In order to defeat Huang Fan, this student had already exhausted his willpower. There was no way for him to continue fighting. "Xia Huyo, what about you?" Xia Huyo rolled his eyes. Why did he specially ask me? He turned his head and glanced at the others. Xia Huyo suddenly smiled and said with a beaming smile, "Then I will also withdraw and fight for them." "Teacher, do you want to draw lots or choose by yourself? Or do you want to arrange it directly?" The remaining 8 people were all experts. He was also happy to watch the show. Lu Hong also looked at the 8 people, he said with a smile, "What do you all think?" The Divine Inscriptions competition was just a small competition. The main purpose was to compare notes and strengthen oneself. Who do you think is more suitable to be your opponent? Or rather, I would like to know who has concealed their strength and who has grasped a few divine inscriptions. This fellow had a smile on his face, but his gaze was directed towards Su Yu, as if he was saying that all of them could choose Su Yu. Jing Yunhui seemed to be a little impatient, and directly said, "I challenge the one with the surname Wan. Let's see if the one with the surname Wan is really stronger than me." Zhao Shiqi indifferently said, "Then I'll choose Hu Qiusheng, a member of the Hu family. The divine inscriptions shouldn't be weak, right?" Xia Chan didn't look at Su Yu, nor did she look at that person from the Divine Talisman Academy. Instead, she looked at Su Meng and said indifferently, "Su Meng, it's just the 2 of us girls. How about we spar?" Su Meng was a genius from the Will Academy. She looked very refined and quiet. Upon hearing this, she nodded lightly and said with a chuckle, "All right, Sister Xia Chan, I also want to spar with you." Su Yu and Zhang Hao looked at each other, feeling a little indifferent. Since the others had already made their choices and no one cared about them, the 2 of them did not mind sparring. Divine Talisman Academy. Su Yu muttered in his heart. On the second day of entering the academy, he had already felt a little different. The researcher who had displayed the divine talisman that day was very strong. however. This was not a real spar, but in a mystical realm. The other party was unable to use the divine talisman, right? However, Zhang Hao seemed to have won very easily in the past few times. Was this fellow very strong? Seeing that they had chosen their own opponents, Lu Hong did not care. He smiled and said, "Since you guys have no objections, let's settle it this way. The winner will be the top 4. The top 4 will compete again. The winner will be the top 2, and the final winner will be determined. The top 3 or 4 can also compete again to determine the winner." After saying that, he looked at Su Yu and said, "Su Yu, you and Xia Chan better not lose. Under normal circumstances, the top 3 will always be our Divine Arts Academy's Bao Yuan. If you lose, don't blame teacher for punishing you." Su Yu's face turned black. "Do you have the nerve to say such words?" Beside him, Xia Chan pretended not to have heard him. Lu Hong really had no class, so she couldn't be bothered with him. Su Yu ignored him as well. He looked at Zhang Hao and nodded slightly. Zhang Hao smiled and nodded in response. As for Lu Hong's words, he could just ignore them. They were all geniuses, so they couldn't be bothered to argue over the words of an outsider. They were just sparring. Many researchers rolled their eyes at Lu Hong. This fellow always felt that he was too narrow-minded and shameless. Only Wuxia glanced at Lu Hong and cursed in her heart. Pretending to be stupid again. They were already in the air and about to reach Ling Yun, so who was he pretending to be? No matter how much he pretended, it wouldn't change the fact that he was a sinister person. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 525. Chapter 525, Chapter 144. There were only 4 matches in the 4th round. The first match was between Jing Yunhui and Wan Mingze. At this moment, Su was interested even though he could not see the process of the match. He had fought with Jing Yunhui before, so he roughly knew Jing Yunhui's strength. Of course, Jing Yunhui's willpower was not weak, and his divine prose was not bad either. But strictly speaking, he did not feel as good as Jing Hong. He wanted to see how Wan Mingze compared to Jing Yunhui. Just as their willpower was immersed in it, the 2 colors instantly surged. The white color was Wan Mingze, and Jing Yunhui's was blue. At this moment, the white and blue colors instantly fluctuated. In the outside world, Jing Yunhui's expression was solemn. His willpower was constantly being injected, and his expression was somewhat ugly. Wan Mingze was still indifferent. This time, Su Yu and the others instantly felt something strange. It seemed like Jing Yunhui was no match for his opponent. The 2 colors rolled for about 5 minutes. The blue color that Jing Yunhui represented instantly disappeared. Jing Yunhui suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Wan Mingze with a solemn expression. "Wan Mingze, very good. I've lost. I'll compete with you on the top 100 leaderboards again. I can afford to lose, but I've lost in the aspect of divine inscriptions. What kind of ability is willpower?" Everyone was speechless. Many researchers rubbed their foreheads, feeling a headache. "Young man, this is a civilized academy. Not your old Jing family, but all war fanatics. Our major is divine literature and willpower." This kid said that he could afford to lose, but in fact, he still couldn't afford to lose. He felt that just divine literature didn't represent his full strength. Wan Mingze chuckled and said, "The top 100 list. Yunhui, there are many experts on the top 100 list. Can't we settle down for a little longer?" TCH. Jing Yunhui's face was filled with disdain as he said disdainfully, "Only by fighting bravely and knowing the gap can we improve. If I continue to be a tortoise, I will become a real tortoise sooner or later. Even if I lose, I also know where the gap is. I will soon catch up." Wan Mingze smiled and did not say anything. "You are you, and I am me. Our paths may not be the same. Beside him, Zhao Shiqi let out a light sigh and said softly, it seems that the civilized aristocratic families are really strong. Hu Qiusheng, let me see the Hu family's heritage. Zhao Shiqi, the son of the Deputy General of the Dragon Martial Guards. The successor of the warrior's path. He and Jing Yunhui were both outsiders in this generation's prodigy. The family was not famous for the civilized path. Hu Qiusheng smiled. Su Yu realized one thing. The successors of the civilized family all loved to smile. On the other hand, Zhao Shiqi and the others, who came from the warrior's path, actually did not like to smile. It was rare to see them greet people with a smile. The two of them entered the mystic realm. The second match began. The two colors were still rolling, and they were evenly matched. Hu Qiusheng and Zhao Shiqi's faces were solemn, and sweat dripped down. This time, the two of them fought for a very long time. Almost 10 minutes had passed, and Zhao Shiqi staggered and almost fell. His willpower retreated, and he opened his eyes to look at Hu Qiusheng. His face was pale, and after a long while, he panted and said, it seems like, those of us who come from warrior families are a little lacking. We will catch up. Hu Qiusheng, are you going to charge into the top 100 next month? At the side, Jing Yunhui, who was still recuperating, said somewhat irrationally, let's charge together. I feel that it's no problem for us to get into the top 10 from the bottom this year. We will directly occupy the top 10 from the bottom so as to prevent some mediocre people from occupying the position and making a fool of ourselves. Some of the teachers present were speechless. These words had offended people. Some of the people in the top 10 from the bottom were their disciples and disciples. For example, Wuxia's students were in the top 10 from the bottom. Hu Qiusheng and the others all smiled and did not reply. They were not in a hurry. Jing Yunhui turned his head to look at Su Yu and said casually, Su Yu, you're already at the 6th stage of the Qianjun realm. With the addition of 10,000 stone blood essence and divine one level 2, why don't you charge together with me? As soon as these words were said, the crowd cried out in surprise. The 6th stage of the Qianjun realm? On the other side, Wu Lan's expression was dull. Wasn't it the 3rd stage of the Qianjun realm? Why did it suddenly reach the 6th stage? Su Yu glanced at him and said indifferently, Yunhui, are you still asleep and talking in your sleep? Jing Yunhui said with disdain, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid that your strength will be exposed and that someone will do something to you? Just go up and let people know that although you, Su Yu, are defeated by me, beating them isn't a problem. Su Yu stared at him for a while. This guy wasn't a boorish person. Why did he suddenly pull him out for no reason? Of course, many people knew about his fight with Jing Yunhui, but everyone pretended not to know. This guy suddenly self-detonated, why did he drag me into the water? Many people looked at Su Yu in shock. A few researchers even wanted to use their willpower to investigate Su Yu, but they were still a little taboo and didn't say anything. Lu Hong did not mind. He guessed that Su Yu had also reached the 6th stage of Qianjun. It was not surprising. Su Yu did not say anything. Jing Yunhui said impatiently, all of you, hold it in. There are still 2 more years, and it will be a great opportunity. Anyway, you are not in a hurry. I am in a hurry, and I still want to fight for it. Otherwise, could it be 12 years later? When these words were said, Lu Hong and Wu Qi looked at him at the same time. What great ambition! There was indeed a great opportunity in more than 2 years, but this opportunity, they were also fighting for it. Jing Yunhui actually had this idea. Among the few of them, Su Yu was probably the only one who knew a little about this, and the others more or less knew a little about it. Jing Yunhui continued, it's best to soar in the sky in 1 year and enter the 7th level of the sky in 1 year. Only then will there be a chance to fight for that spot. The resources on the top 100 rankings are a small matter. Constantly fighting with those guys who are close to taking off is a chance to temper ourselves. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 526, Standing Side by Side, Number 2 Chio subscribe. Chapter 526, Chapter 144, Standing Side by Side, Number 2 Chio subscribe. You want to become a powerhouse of the same level? You want to suppress those from the higher generations? He pointed at Lu Hong and the others and looked at Su Yu and the others. These people are our biggest opponents for the spots. Now, they are high above us, looking down on us as if we were a child's play, watching us fight. If they don't make it into the top 100, they don't even have the right to be taken seriously by them. Jing Yunhui said loudly, "What are you afraid of? Isn't it just doing? I don't think they are stronger than me. If you want to say that they are stronger, they are probably only a few years older." Su Yu looked at him speechlessly. Have you gone mad? This is the rhythm of a crazy person begging to be abused. Can't you see that Lu Hong is smiling? His smile is too brilliant. Lu Hong laughed and said, "You have ambition. Alright, the competition is not over yet. Challenging the top 100 is your business. Let's not talk about this now. Su Yu, Xia Chan, which one of you will go first?" Su Yu looked at Xia Chan and said, "I'll go first." The two girls should compete at the back. Zhang Hao nodded and looked at Su Yu with a surprised look. "Su Yu, have you really reached the 6th layer of the Qianjun realm?" Su Yu smiled and said, "Jing Yunhui wants to challenge the top 100, why do you have to drag me into the water? It's not the 6th layer of the Qianjun realm. I, Su Yu, never lie. Don't believe his nonsense." Jing Yunhui looked at him strangely. This guy, denied it in front of so many people, could it be true? It's not the 6th layer of the top 100. No. Jing Yunhui's eyes were filled with doubt. What did he mean? The 5th layer of the top 100, or, stronger than the 6th layer? Damn it, I don't understand this kid. As for dragging Su Yu down, of course, it was to find someone to share the burden. Su Yu was the most suitable. He was preparing to challenge the top 100. It was too difficult for a freshman to challenge the top 100. Everyone would target him. He might even be beaten up by senior students who were ranked near the top. But if Su Yu was involved, then there would be no problem. Everyone had to watch the show. They were waiting for Su Yu to be beaten up. Without saying anything else, Su Yu cursed in his heart. "Zheng, just you wait and see. This bastard, he doesn't appreciate favors at all. You forgot that he helped you earn tens of thousands of merit points last time." He turned around and threw himself out to attract the firepower. "He's not a thing. The next time I meet you, I'll blow you up, you be ****starred. In the secret text realm. Su Yu and Zhang Hao's figures appeared. Explode. Su Yu had just created an illusion. With a boom, the illusion shattered. Zhang Hao had a smile on his face. Looking at Su Yu's willpower true body, he wasn't surprised at all. With a smile, the "explode" word divine script flew towards Su Yu once again. This time, Su Yu didn't hesitate. The divine text battle technique appeared. 5 divine texts joined forces and slashed out in the air. Explosion. Another explosion shook. Su Yu frowned and shattered the explosion light ball. What divine text is this? Su Yu was a little surprised. He felt that the divine text had been destroyed. How could there still be more? Just as he was thinking, countless explosion character divine texts appeared in the air. Rumble. Su Yu only felt his scalp go numb. What was this? Divine runes? What the hell, what kind of freak was he? Using divine runes as divine runes. On the other side, Zhang Hao had truly displayed what a divine rune master was capable of. He did not even get close to Su Yu. Every time Su Yu tried to kill him, countless explosion divine runes would explode. The void shook. Su Yu was constantly being attacked. His body swayed, and he was so angry that he gritted his teeth. The long saber flew out. Lightning burst out. However, Zhang Hao only used one move, and it exploded. The explosion was over. Halfway through the long saber's flight, it was shattered by the countless explosion words. Su Yu had no choice but to recall the divine literature battle technique. In the next moment, Su Yu was so angry that he was anxious. Suddenly, the divine literature battle technique transformed into an armor and covered his body. He sat cross-legged on the ground, not moving at all. Turtle. I'll count you as ruthless. Isn't it just a competition of attrition? I don't believe that you can kill me with an explosion. Don't you expend willpower when you explode? On the other side, Zhang Hao's eyes flickered, and he couldn't help but laugh. It's a good way to deal with it. Unfortunately, can you really outlast me? He had seen Su Yu and Zheng Hong sparring. He knew that Su Yu could endure, but can you endure me? What was a divine talisman master? It was to continuously create one-time divine runes, seal them up, and use them as a combat technique. One's willpower was not strong, nor was it deep. It was also impossible to create so many divine talismans. Dozens of explode words continuously circled around Su Yu, constantly exploding. Outside. The golden defense and the red invasion. Both sides fell into a fierce battle. Both of their willpower continued to pour into the mystic realm. They were both strong-willed people. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Time passed bit by bit. The others watched silently. These evildoers were indeed extraordinary. With their normal temperaments, they might not be able to continue fighting for 3 to 5 minutes. These two were great, especially Su Yu. At this moment, the weapon forging department's middle-aged man became more and more astonished as he watched. He could endure it so much. At this moment, Su Yu's body trembled slightly. Everyone felt a little regretful. Was he going to lose? Just as they were thinking, Su Yu suddenly let out a low shout. His physical body reacted. The willpower that was about to be cut off seemed to have come back from the dead. It surged out once again. It was continuous. In the sea of willpower, Su Yu's willpower had already been exhausted. However, at this moment, new willpower was rapidly being born. He was cowering. In the secret document realm, Su Yu did not move like a mountain. He sat cross-legged in the center, allowing the explosive divine runes to explode. Outside, Zhang Hao's body was somewhat illusory. He looked at Su Yu, full of shock and doubt. What situation? This did not blow out. Su Yu no longer pay attention to him, mainly defense, willpower constantly emerged. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 527. Chapter 527, Chapter 144. In terms of recovery, he was much faster than Zhang Hao. The first was that he consumed a lot of energy, so he recovered quickly out of habit. The second was the Golden Atlas, which had the effect of increasing recovery speed. The third was the Annihilation Beast Skull, which also had the effect of increasing recovery speed. The other thing was that his willpower was weaker to begin with. Now that he was mainly defending, he consumed less energy than Zhang Hao, so his recovery speed was actually faster than his opponent's. Both of them knew that it was already close to 10 minutes. According to the previous rules, whoever had the most color coverage would be the winner after 10 minutes. Although they could not see the situation outside, Su Yu and Zhang Hao both understood that at that time, whoever had the most remaining willpower would be able to occupy more areas. Zhang Hao frowned slightly. He had used up quite a lot of willpower. Su Yu, this guy, he was more able to endure than he had imagined. After thinking for a while, Zhang Hao suddenly waved his hand, and all the exploding divine runes disappeared. The mystic realm returned to its calm state. Su Yu looked at him, and he looked at Su Yu. Zhang Hao smiled and suddenly ignored him. He also sat cross-legged on the ground, as if he was recovering his willpower. Let's see who can win. A line of words appeared in the air, mountain and sea seeking invitation. It was difficult to determine the victor now. Didn't Su Yu want the mountain and sea seeking invitation? Later, if he really judged you to lose, you wouldn't be able to get it. Su Yu frowned slightly. A moment later, a line of words appeared in the air, I'm going to use my ultimate move. Don't blame me if my willpower is damaged. Zhang Hao was somewhat bewildered. Ultimate move? This guy hadn't used up all his trump cards. What ultimate move? The embryonic form of the divine literature battle technique had already appeared, what else did this guy have? Outside. Su Yu's willpower suddenly withdrew a portion, and on the sphere, the golden color instantly withdrew by more than half. The students all looked over with their eyes wide open. Su Yu had lost. Su Yu, whose willpower had retreated by more than half, felt the existence of his body and suddenly bit down on a drop of blood essence in his mouth. The aura of the blood essence disappeared in a flash. Several researchers looked at Su Yu one after another. The next moment, they saw the golden color represented by Su Yu's willpower sweep out again, occupying half of the sphere. Blood essence? Someone said in surprise, what is he doing? This was not a physical battle. Blood essence was not helpful to willpower, right? Innate blood essence. Lu Hong said in a low voice, what blood essence? An innate blood essence that specializes in fighting with willpower. When he said this, many people were shocked. Was there an innate blood essence related to willpower? If there was, then to civilized masters, it was truly a treasure. Previously, the innate blood essence, such as the fire dolphin and the iron-wing bird, were both physical innate skills. Could it be that the Wentan Research Center had also created an innate skill related to willpower? There are also innate skills in willpower. For example, the fire crows can burn the sea of will with their flames. The three-eyed rainbow light of the heavens divine race also has the ability to destroy the sea of will. The beaver race's charm can also confuse willpower. The researchers started listing out several races that were gifted in willpower. Elder Hong had captured many monsters in this area. Could it be that he has made some progress? These people were shocked and moved. As for what blood essence Su Yu had swallowed, they couldn't tell what it was. At this moment, Jia Mingjun and the others felt it. The blood essence of the soul-devouring bug. It's from the Thousand June realm. Jia Mingjun quickly identified the type of blood essence, then shook his head and said regretfully, Thousand June realm, it seems that even if there is a result, it is very weak. Otherwise, Su Yu wouldn't have used the Thousand June realm blood essence. Soul-devouring bug clan's innate skill has the effect of eroding willpower, but soul-devouring bugs pay attention to group effects. A drop of blood essence, even if they used their innate skill, the effect would probably be limited. Even though he said that, Jia Mingjun still exclaimed, Hong Tan, that fellow, really has some talent. He even managed to research it. For the innate skill of willpower, he didn't even have any results at the exploration realm, right? What did that fellow go to the heavenly battlefield for? I heard that there was a new race that appeared in the heavenly battlefield in a very small number. It might be a race that had just connected to the heavenly battlefield. Someone encountered it. That race has a special ability that seems to be able to devour divine runes. At this point, Jia Mingjun was slightly moved as he said, the race that can devour divine runes, and the kind that allows you to devour even their roots. Actually, I'm a little moved as well. If we were to capture this thing and study it, we might be able to produce a powerful devouring divine rune. Is that true? I've heard about it too, However, I heard that it appeared at the Great Merchant House and that the person it met was also someone from the Great Merchant House. How did the news leak out? I don't know then. Since Hong Tan has gone there and we can't find him, I'm afraid that he won't leave the celestial battlefield so easily if we don't catch him. After chatting for a while, the only female pavilion elder suddenly asked, "Do you think it's possible that someone intentionally spread the news to lure Hong Tan away?" Hong Tan has been studying all kinds of bizarre-looking myriad clans for the past few years, and he needs all kinds of blood essence. The rarer the better. Everyone knows that. Others might not be moved and are afraid of trouble, but Hong Tan isn't afraid of trouble. If he knows the news, it would be strange if he didn't go. But I heard that it was that bastard Bai Feng who said it, encouraging him to leave. You can't say that. If the news gets out, even if Bai Feng doesn't say it, Hong Tan will find out sooner or later. With his personality, if he finds out, he'll have to go. Do you guys think that it was the Divine One faction that did this? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 528, Standing Side by Side. Show subscribe, 4. Chapter 528, Chapter 144, Standing Side by Side. Show subscribe, 4. The few of them fell into deep thought and stopped discussing. It was really possible. Bai Feng was a little shrewd, but his mind was sometimes one track. When the news reached his ears, it was only a matter of time before Hong Tan found out. Bai Feng would not think deeply about how he was able to obtain the news, and what the few elders knew was not too clear. As for Hong Tan, his personality was very similar to that of his disciple. In addition to his powerful strength, it was not surprising that he did not investigate further. As they were talking, the color of the round ball changed. The two colors competed with each other, and the red color continued to fade. Zhang Hao's face revealed a painful color. His willpower had been corroded. The few pavilion elders instantly looked over and looked at Su Yu with some surprise. He could really use the willpower innate skill. At this moment, in the secret text realm, Su Yu's divine text exploded, and lightning struck everywhere. Besides the lightning, there was also a black gas. Zhang Hao's explosive divine text showed signs of being corroded as soon as it came into contact with the black gas. The black gas spread. It even directly spread toward his willpower. Zhang Hao's face was filled with pain as he continuously retreated. He couldn't help but want to curse. What the hell? Why was there a black aura all of a sudden? It didn't feel like the divine runes. After a few moments of stalemate with Su Yu, he realized that the black aura was still burning and corroding his willpower. He had a helpless expression on his face. Damn bastard, what was this thing? If this went on, it wouldn't be worth it even if he won. A portion of his willpower had been corroded, and he still had to spend a lot of energy to repair it. Once the divine runes were corroded, he would suffer a huge loss. This wasn't something that number one could make up for. The next moment, Zhang Hao raised his hand, indicating that he had admitted defeat. We can chat when we get out. Zhang Hao typed out a sentence and looked at Su Yu. Su Yu nodded slightly and also let out a sigh of relief. The next moment, Zhang Hao exited the secret text realm. Su Yu and Zhang Hao opened their eyes at the same time. Zhang Hao grimaced and no longer had his bearing. He was in some pain and some heartache. There were actually a few small black spots on his one and only divine symbol. Damn it, if this fight continued, a portion of his divine symbol would be corroded. What the hell? Su Yu looked at Su Yu and revealed an apologetic look. He said, "I'm sorry, brother Zhang. I also want to win. I have to take back Grandmaster's things." Zhang Hao said helplessly, "It's fine. It's your ability to win against me. Even if that fight didn't happen, it's hard to say who would win. Then, he said, if there's a chance in the future, we can chat more. I'm quite interested in that thing just now. Suyu smiled and nodded. Of course. As for his innate blood essence, if he didn't have it, then so be it. He could just find an excuse. His teacher didn't allow his innate blood essence to be passed on. It wasn't a big deal. Suyu and Su Meng didn't stay long and quickly walked down. Xia Chan and Su Meng looked at them, especially Suyu, who had a solemn expression on his face. After eliminating Zheng Hong and Zhang Hao, Suyu was becoming more and more unfathomable. Just as Suyu stepped down from the stage, Xia Huyo rushed over. With an excited expression, he said in a low voice, soul-devouring worm blood essence. Blood essence? Sell a few drops to me. 100 merit points for one drop. No, 200 merit points for one drop. I'm not selling it. Don't do that, brother. The raw materials I've collected for you are definitely made by Teacher Bai. It's not in stock. You must still have. Suyu said calmly, I'm not selling it. It's not stable yet. It hasn't been kept for long. This is an experimental blood essence. Then how many drops of iron-winged bird's innate blood essence are you selling to me? I'm not selling it. Suyu frowned and said, Grandmaster hasn't returned. He won't sell it. Don't think about it. As Suyu thought about it, he felt a little helpless. He had to go back and ask his teacher if he could get some innate blood essence. He could forget about the real one and the fake one. The research center should have some, but it seemed to only have the Thousand June realm. It didn't matter. Suyu no longer cared about Xiaohuyo. He looked at the two girls in the arena. When these two fought, it would be much more lively. There were a lot of people watching around. Xiaohuyo kept looking in Su Meng's direction. He clicked his tongue, and Suyu tilted his ear to listen. He heard this guy and another guy whose eyes were shining say in a low voice, Su Meng has something. My sister can't do it. Hit her harder, and she'll be drenched in sweat. Then it'll be obvious. Your sister is not bad too. Bang! Just as this guy finished speaking, Xiaohuyo slapped him and said in a low voice, Do you want to die? Her grandfather is that someone, do you believe that I won't tell on you? Your family will immediately go bankrupt. Don't, brother Xia. I'm just saying. Please don't. I was wrong. Look at Su Meng, look at Su Meng. The boy was nervous. Lord Xia Ho, he almost forgot about this guy. He could really bankrupt his family. Suyu was speechless. These two guys. He had nothing to say. Ignoring them, Suyu began to cross-legged and quickly recover his willpower. Wan Mingze and Hu Qiusheng were also like him. Seeing Suyu cross-legged and recover, Wan Mingze suddenly opened his eyes and said, Suyu, first or second, it's not important to us. With that kind of innate blood essence just now, if one of us gets first place, how about you exchange a drop of it for mountain and sea seeking invitation? Suyu vaguely regretted it. It seemed that he had caused some trouble. The soul-devouring worm's innate blood essence seemed to be more precious than the iron-winged birds, even if it was only at the Thousand June realm. In the academy, everyone cultivated willpower, so they paid more attention to things related to willpower. Previously, when he revealed the iron-winged bird's blood essence, it was at the Thousand Stone realm, so no one paid much attention to it. But now, it immediately attracted the attention of Xiaohuyo, Wan Mingze, and the others, not to mention the teachers. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 529, Chapter 2 Chio Subscribe, 5. Chapter 529, Chapter 144, Chapter 2 Chio Subscribe, 5. He was in trouble. Suyu sighed in his heart. He did not expect this to happen. He thought that it would be the same as before. Now, It seemed that he had thought too little. After this, he had to reflect on it. He thought. Suyu smiled and said, "This won't do. Please don't make things difficult for me, unless my teacher agrees." However, Grandmaster Hong didn't come back, so it was almost impossible for teacher to agree. "This is just an experiment. I only have this one drop on me." The few of them looked at him with smiles. "You only have one drop?" Suyu changed the topic. "Who do you think will win, Xia-chan or Su Meng?" "Xia-chan." Wan Mingzi didn't say much and said, "Su Meng's willpower is a little stronger than Xia-chan's, but she cultivates a single divine text and only has one divine text. Xia-chan has at least 3 divine texts, and at least one of them is a tier 2 divine text." As he said that, he looked at Su Yu and said, "But even if we win, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. Actually, this kind of competition is not very fair. Everyone consumes a lot of energy. Some people encounter strong opponents and consume even more energy. Later, when the 4 of us fight, it will also be unfair." Hu Qiusheng also said, "You have encountered Zheng Hong and Zhang Hao consecutively and consumed even more energy than us. Actually, there is nothing glorious about winning against you. Zheng Yunhui has a saying that is right. I really want to prove myself and show off on the top 100 roll." As he said that, Hu Qiusheng said softly, "Originally, we wanted to wait for a while, but after hearing what he said, perhaps, next month, we'll also challenge the top 100 students in advance." After saying that, he looked at Su Yu and said, "Is your physical body really at the critical mass 6th layer? Then, with the help of the 1,000 stone innate skill blood essence, there's still hope for you to enter the top 100. Su Yu smiled and said, "We'll see. I feel that I still have some deficiencies now. The 2 of you, how about we have a discussion? If I don't get the Mountain and Sea invitation later, the 2 of you have the best chance of getting it. Can you sell it to me?" Hu Qiusheng could not help but laugh. "You're looking down on Xia-chan. Do you believe that she'll find trouble with you?" Su Yu also laughed. "She used up a lot of energy in her last battle. Even if she wins, I don't think she'll have time to recover. On the other hand, the 2 of you have recovered quite a lot." The 2 of them laughed. Wan Mingzi smiled. "That's fine too. Actually, it's useless even if we take it. If we really get it, it's just a decoration. Forget about the innate blood essence, you won't sell it either. How about this? If the 2 of us get it, you won't be able to use the chance to enter the mystic realm, right? How about using that chance to exchange for it?" Su Yu was slightly startled. Yes, he still had one more chance to enter the War Devil field. The war character of the demon race was left behind by the 3rd generation prefect. Su Yu frowned and asked, "Can I transfer it?" "Yes." Wan Mingzi smiled and said, "Actually, it's not expensive to enter. 200 merit points per trip. But, if it's not given away by the academy, then it requires merit levels. 200 merit points will do. We don't have enough merit points." Su Yu glanced at him and said slowly, "How about buying it with merit points? We don't lack this bit of merit points." Wan Mingzi smiled and said, "If you want to get this thing back, you either have the blood essence talent or it's a chance to enter the secret realm. 200 merit points is enough for you. I've checked your information and you've accumulated quite a lot." Su Yu frowned slightly. Wan Mingzi smiled and said, "Don't mind me. I'm not lying either. The academy has checked your information. We're definitely not the only ones. What's the use of the War Devil field? Fighting, killing, and tempering." Wan Mingzi said calmly, "We've experienced too little blood, and we're not strong enough. We can't go to the celestial battlefield, and we can't even go to the sea area. So, the War Devil field is the most suitable place for us to increase our actual combat experience." Actual combat. Su Yu pondered for a moment and nodded. "Okay, If you really get it, then we'll exchange it. As for whether he could get it or not, he still had to fight for it. It was just to give himself a foundation. As they were chatting, a muffled grunt was heard. The few of them looked towards the center. Xia Chan and Su Meng's faces were pale. Blood was flowing out from the corner of Su Meng's mouth. Xia Chan was also sweating profusely and the ground was covered in water. Xia Chan had won. It was not an easy win. From the looks of it, she had expended a lot of energy. It was hard to say if she could even participate in the next round of the competition. Sure enough, Xia Chan had won against Su Meng. She was too lazy to waste her breath and directly said, "I won't participate in the next round." She knew that her situation was terrible. Even the divine inscriptions were almost defeated by Su Meng. She had only won by a fluke. If she were to participate in the competition again, she would be looking for trouble. There was no need for that. When Lu Hong heard this, he immediately smiled and said, "So, the top 3 have been decided? Wan Mingze, Hu Qiusheng, Su Yu." As soon as he finished speaking, Xia Huyo suddenly screamed. Everyone looked at him in unison. He laughed dryly and looked at Xia Chan with a pained expression on his face. He looked depressed. "Brother Pit. Why aren't you in the top 3? Many people are betting that you won't be able to enter the top 3. Your brother, I believe in you and will definitely be able to enter. You actually admitted defeat. It's over, I'll lose a few hundred merit points again." Xia Chan seemed to know what he was doing. She snorted coldly and turned her face away. Embarrassing. Serves her right. Lu Hong could not be bothered with Xia Huyo. He looked at Su Yu and the other 2 and smiled. "What do you guys say? Shall we take turns fighting? Or do we fight in another way? Or one of us will lose, or—" He did not finish his sentence. Hu Qiusheng smiled and said, "Forget it. I won't fight for first place. I'm not as good as Wan Mingze. Su Yu and Wan Mingze can try. If Su Yu wins, he will be first. If he loses, there's nothing to fight for second or third place. It's the same." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 530, Standing Side by Side 6. Chapter 530, Chapter 144, Standing Side by Side 6. Su Yu looked at Wan Mingze. Wan Mingze could not help but laugh. "Qiusheng is trying to kill me." After saying that, he looked at Su Yu and smiled. "Since he doesn't want to fight, I still want this opportunity. Do you want to give it a try?" Su Yu looked at Hu Qiusheng. Hu Qiusheng smiled. He said softly, "Don't look at me. I have no intention of watching the show. I'm really inferior to him. I've fought with him in private and lost a few times. Otherwise, I'm not someone who will easily admit defeat." He had really fought with Wan Mingze before and lost. Su Yu frowned and felt a little solemn. So strong. Hu Qiusheng was not weak. Su Yu firmly believed that Jing Yunhui was most likely not a match for him. Previously, he had also defeated Zhao Shiqi. This fellow's strength was probably even stronger than Jing Hong's, but in the end, he actually did not admit defeat. Wan Mingze, a member of the Wan family. Then I'll give it a try. Su Yu did not say much. No matter what, he wanted to give it a try. Even if he was inferior to the other party, he still had to see the difference. Both parties stood up and quickly walked to the side of the round ball. White and golden colors interweaved. In the mystical document realm, 2 figures appeared at the same time. Wan Mingze had a smile on his face as he raised his hand to signal for Su Yu to make the first move. Su Yu did not stand on ceremony either. With a solemn expression, the divine literature battle technique's long saber directly appeared. Killing intent burst forth, and lightning blasted out. It was accompanied by an illusion, and even a shadow boundary. The blade that went all out did not have any intention of probing. Wan Mingze did not seem to have any movements. The long blade arrived, but Wan Mingze still had a smile on his face. As if he was not affected by the illusion, he reached out to grab the long blade. He grabbed it directly. The lightning struck down fiercely, and a layer of light halo appeared around Wan Mingze's body. Su Yu was slightly shocked. Tier 2 Divine Runes. And it wasn't the type that had just advanced. Fixed. Su Yu tried his best to identify it, but just as he saw a hint, he suddenly felt that the long blade had been solidified. He was greatly alarmed and hurriedly unleashed his willpower to control it. But right at this moment, another ball of light flickered. There's more. Su Yu was greatly alarmed. Another Tier 2 Divine Rune. Seal. This divine inscription exploded, and in an instant, the space around Su Yu seemed to have been sealed. Kill. Su Yu shouted in his heart, and his killing intent exploded. At this moment, Wan Mingze exploded another divine inscription, freeze. Su Yu cursed madly. Damn it, how was he going to fight? He felt that he was directly fixed on the spot. Are you from the multiple divine runes school, or am I? 3 divine runes, and they were all tier 2. There was no logic to this. And that was not all. In the blink of an eye, the word fixed fused together and directly wrapped around Su Yu's divine rune's long saber, sealing it tightly. It was a true fusion. The 2 divine runes seemed to have become one, fusing together and sealing the long saber tightly. Even if Su Yu had 2 tier 2 divine runes, he had no way to struggle free. The seal divine runes instantly covered the sky and sealed Su Yu under the divine runes. 3 auxiliary divine runes. However, the effects were more terrifying than the offensive ones. Su Yu watched helplessly as Wan Mingze walked forward step by step. His willpower kept exploding, but he was unable to break free. Wan Mingze smiled and gradually approached Su Yu. His lips moved, as if he was speaking. Su Yu carefully identified him and could vaguely see that he was saying, "I was lucky. My lethality is not strong. I mainly walk the path of blockade." Su Yu was aggrieved. He cursed silently. This was called a not lethality. Then what was considered strong? In the next moment, Wan Mingze proved that his lethality was really not strong. This bastard walked in front of Su Yu and kicked Su Yu one foot after another. Su Yu was firmly fixed, but it was as if he had not eaten. He kicked with all his strength. Even the projection of his willpower felt a little sweaty. Su Yu was anxious for him. He kicked and kicked. Then, a knife suddenly materialized in his hand. He looked at Su Yu apologetically, and his lips moved again. "Sorry, you're too hard. It's hard to kill you. I'll cut you slowly." As he spoke, he picked up the knife and cut Su Yu's body. Su Yu was on the verge of collapse. He felt that this should be something he should do, not this guy. This guy laughed, apologized, and cut himself. Damn it, crazy. Su Yu felt as if he was looking at a crazy person. No wonder Hu Qiusheng was unwilling to compete with him. Damn it, if he had known that he was so perverted, he would not have competed. Su Yu cursed in his heart. He felt that this guy's lethality was really not strong, but this situation, who could bear it? He watched as he was cut into pieces. Even if this was not his physical body, he could not bear this grievance. In the next moment, Su Yu's figure disappeared. Wan Mingze had a regretful look on his face. It was a pity that Su Yu was no longer around. Otherwise, he could see that he was saying, "It's a pity that Hu Qiusheng did not admit defeat even after being cut more than 1,000 times. Obviously, the two of them were fighting with this kind of mystical realm. Otherwise, Hu Qiusheng would have been cut to death long ago." The moment Su Yu opened his eyes with a dark face, he saw Hu Qiusheng's meaningful smile. He had lost, right? Was he cut? That guy was really abnormal. He wasn't willing to fight with Wan Mingze. Although there weren't any powerful divine runes, those divine runes had fixed him firmly. He didn't want to try it again even if he was beaten to death. The 3 Tier 2 divine runes were all used to lock down the target. If you weren't in the air, it would probably be difficult for you to break free from his lock. Of course, if you really fought, your physical strength would explode, and there would be hope for you to break free. Su Yu's face was dejected, somewhat helpless, and somewhat disappointed. After consecutively defeating Zheng Hong and Zhang Hao, Hu Qiusheng and Xia Chan voluntarily forfeited. He didn't believe that he didn't have any ambition to take first place. However, reality proved that his willpower was really not strong enough. The divine runes were also not strong enough. After encountering Wan Mingze, there was almost no resistance. If Wan Mingze had a powerful offensive divine runes, he could instantly kill Su Yu. He really doesn't have it? Su Yu was somewhat suspicious. He did not believe it. Perhaps, he had it. At this moment, Lu Hong smiled and said, Su Yu, you lost. Do you still want to fight with Hu Qiusheng for second place? Su Yu's interest waned and he waved his hand. Hu Qiusheng smiled and said, it doesn't matter. Let's not fight now. There's still a chance in the future. Everyone has used up too much. Then who will be second? Su Yu directly said, consider it his win. He did not care about that god-fortifying pill at all. It was useless to him. However, a divine talisman might be more suitable for him. Hu Qiusheng said helplessly, I don't want to be second either, how about we both be second? We'll split the prizes ourselves. Those who are first, what are we fighting for? At this moment, Su Yu and he looked at each other with some sadness. Those who were first were all trash. Someone had said this before, but they did not hear it. However, they all felt a little helpless. However, Su Yu quickly pulled himself together. It was all right. I still have a lot of room for improvement. I've only just begun. The next moment, Su Yu again fighting spirit up. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 531, Martial Technique in Hand 1. Chapter 531, Chapter 145 Martial Technique in Hand 1. He lost. He lost to Wan Mingze by a huge margin. Su Yu sighed in his heart. In terms of willpower and divine runes, if he didn't rely on his blood essence, even Zhang Hao might not be able to win. Wan Mingze, Hu Qiusheng, Zhang Hao. Including Zheng Hong, who he had won. If they really fought a second time, it was hard to say who would win. None of these evildoers were easy to deal with. Wan Mingze. 3 Tier 2 divine runes. This was somewhat out of Su Yu's expectations. After fighting with Wan Mingze, Su Yu did not use the soul-devouring worm's blood essence anymore. This thing was too eye-catching, and even if he used it, he might not be able to win. 3 Sealing-type divine runes. Just as Su Yu was thinking about this, Hu Qiusheng, who was in the same predicament as him, was beside him. He chuckled and said, so what if we lose? We can afford to lose once. This guy is indeed a monster. You don't know, right? He sketched his first divine text at the age of 9, and for 9 years, he only cultivated auxiliary divine texts. I don't know what he's thinking. 9 years old. Su Yu was shocked. He said in a low voice, sketching divine texts requires at least 10% willpower. You need to read a lot of books and learn a lot of knowledge. When he was 9 years old, he was still in a low-level academy. He was playing with a bunch of kids. He's the grandnephew of Mansion Master Wan. Since he was young, he has always had Mansion Master Wan as his target. He idolizes Mansion Master Wan very much. Mansion Master Wan also thinks highly of him and often gives him pointers. Hu Qiusheng chuckled. In addition, he can endure hardships and has talent. That's normal. Half of the reason I came to the academy this time was for him. Originally, I was going to seek enlightenment at the Discovery Realm. Oh. Su Yu was stunned. Seek enlightenment from the Seeker Realm? The Seeker Realm also has an internal academy. Hu Qiusheng explained, they are the descendants of some big shots. There are even Eternal Realm experts who often go to explain and even write the text of will for them. However, the threshold is a little high. At that time, my family was planning to send me there. Later, when I found out that Wan Mingze came to the Great Xia Civilization Academy, I also followed him. Su Yu was shocked. Invincible Realm was personally attending the class. Then why didn't he go? As he spoke, he looked at Xia Chan and the others. These people should also have the qualifications to go. Hu Qiusheng smiled and said, seeking the exploration realm might not necessarily be good. Some people would rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. There's also one more thing. On the exploration realm side, it's actually relatively more comfortable. It's not very good. Comfortable? Yes, comfortable. Hu Qiusheng nodded. After all, there are some invincible experts. In the internal academy, everyone mainly studies on their own. The competition is actually not strong. It's a little more comfortable. It's not like the Great Xia Civilization Academy, where you fight each other. Even a top 100 ranking can be fought to the death. Su Yu nodded slightly and did not say anything else. Everyone had their own choices, and it could not be said that they were good or bad. At that time, he still wanted to go to the Great Xia War Academy. Hu Qiusheng looked at him again and smiled. That's why I said, it doesn't matter if you lose. Just stand up. Your potential is very great, and I feel that it's even greater than his. He has cultivated for 9 years, and with his current achievements, how long have you been? He looked at Su Yu with some surprise. Su Yu, have you really come into contact with divine runes for a year? Su Yu smiled foolishly and said, yes, my first teacher was Teacher Lu Wenyan. Actually, he taught me some basics of divine runes a few years ago. However, it hasn't been that long since I first came into contact with divine runes. Hu Qiusheng nodded. He knew about this. Even so, he was still very surprised. Even if he had come into contact with divine runes for a few years, it hadn't been that long since he first came into contact with them. To be able to reach this stage was truly terrifying. Others cared about the number one, Wan Mingze, but he cared more about Su Yu. His progress was too fast. Su Yu didn't bother with him anymore. He walked toward Wan Mingze. His goal was the mountain and sea invitation to the hidden soul, and he wasn't some number one. If he lost once, he would fight back the next time. Brother Wan. Su Yu called out. Wan Mingze was currently chatting with someone. It was a researcher. When that researcher saw Su Yu, he also smiled at Su Yu. His attitude seemed to be okay, and he did not communicate with Su Yu. He turned around and left. Wan Mingze waited for Su Yu to walk over and smiled. The mountain and sea search invitation will be released later. Su Yu, think about what I told you before you came. If you agree, I'll give you this thing for free. Su Yu smiled and shook his head. Wan Mingze sighed and did not force him. He returned to his smile and said, all right then, I'll take advantage of you. I'll use the secret realm in the War Devil field to exchange for it. I hope you won't regret it in the future. Su Yu said softly, that won't happen. There will always be opportunities in the secret realm. As long as you work hard, that's fine. The mountain and sea search invitation is my Grandmaster's favorite post. It's a pity that it was stolen. There was no way to answer that. Wan Mingze was helpless. It was not as if he did not know the situation. There was no need for him to lie in front of everyone even if he wanted to clear his teacher's name. As they were chatting, Wu Lan walked over. This time, she did not raise her head. She was a little dejected. It was as if she did not dare to look at Su Yu. She looked left and right, struggling and hesitating. After a long while, she looked as if she was about to cry. "You're at level 6. Su Yu shook his head. "Really? Not 6 Dan." Su Yu said seriously, "Zheng Yunhui is just spouting nonsense. Also, you don't have to compete with me all the time. Isn't your willpower stronger than mine? It's better for you to soar into the sky as soon as possible. In terms of the physical body, it is a little harder for girls to walk the path of the physical body. Walking the path of willpower is more suitable for you." Willpower. Wu Lan muttered, just like what Lu Hong Laoshi said. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 532, Martial Techniques in Hand 2. Chapter 532, Chapter 145 Martial Techniques in Hand 2. Am I not suitable to walk the path of the physical body? Su Yu smiled and said, "Wu Lan, you are very talented. Your willpower has also improved very quickly, and it is also because of the recent distraction. When your willpower is empty, if you use the God and Devil Essence blood to cast your body, your physical strength will not be weak." "That's right." Wu Lan raised her head again. "I've always been very talented. It's just that my talent might not be on the path of the physical body." Su Yu was right. I need to focus on cultivating willpower. The physical body, if the physical body is weak, then it's weak. When I soar into the sky, the blood essence of the gods and demons will cast my body, and I'll still be very strong. Su Yu, I'll definitely soar into the sky earlier than you. Wu Lan proudly threw down her declaration and turned around to leave. She was as proud as ever. Did you hear that? Su Yu said that I'm very strong and talented. After she ran away, Wan Mingze couldn't help but laugh. He glanced at Wu Qi from the corner of his eye and said with a smile, Wu Lan's talent is not bad, but her sister is still the best in the Wu family. Su Yu also glanced at Wu Qi. Seeing that Wu Qi was talking to Lu Hong, he asked in surprise, "Isn't she on bad terms with Lu Laoshi?" "It's nothing. In this hall, only Lu Laoshi can chat with her." Wan Mingze said something meaningful. Su Yu suddenly understood. In Wu Qi's eyes, those Ling Yun and soaring in the air were nothing. They weren't from the same world. Geniuses had the pride of geniuses. In the entire hall, only Lu Hong was worthy of chatting with her. While they were chatting, Lu Hong stopped talking to Wu Qi and walked over. He was holding something in his hand, and there was a scroll among them. Su Yu's gaze fell on it, but he did not show anything unusual. Soon, Lu Hong walked over and smiled. "Congratulations to all of you. First place, Mountain and Sea Hidden Invitation. Second place, Spirit Fortifying Pill. Third place, One Stone Realm Offensive Divine Talisman. It can unleash the lethality of 2 to 3 levels of 10,000 stones. The top 10 will be rewarded. The reward is 10 merit points. It will be counted as accumulated merit points." 10 merit points was not a lot to these guys, but they could accumulate merit points. They were instantly delighted. There were not many missions that they could do now. The most difficult thing was to accumulate merit points. Su Yu also quickly asked, "Then do we have any?" Lu Hong smiled and said, "The top 3 will naturally be there too. Including each round that you guys won before, 5 merit points will be counted as accumulated merit points." When these words were said, many people were abnormally happy. "That's good." Su Yu also hurriedly calculated. He had won 5 rounds before and after. In the end, he lost to Wan Mingze, but there was one round that he did not fight. It was the fight for second place with Hu Qiusheng. He hurriedly looked at Hu Qiusheng. He then looked at Lu Hong and said, "Teacher, then for this round between Hu Qiusheng and I, why don't we still compete?" Hu Qiusheng was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but laugh. Lu Hong also laughed and narrowed his eyes. "Didn't you guys call it a draw? Since it's a draw, then it's over. Now the match is over." Su Yu felt a little regretful. In that case, he could get a total of 35 merit points this time, and they were all accumulated merit points. That was a lot. He suddenly understood why these geniuses had come to participate. It turned out to be accumulated merit points. Su Yu had thought that it was just an ordinary reward. Su Yu hurriedly calculated his accumulated merit points. Including the first place in last month's monthly exam and the class monitor's reward, he had accumulated a total of 103 merit points. That seemed to be the case. This time, adding 35 points, that would be 138 points. In the afternoon monthly exam, adding the class monitor's reward, if he was first in the monthly exam, then he would have accumulated more than 150 merit points. It was too difficult for freshmen to enter the War Devil field with 200 merit points. Not to mention the War Devil field, even in the Yuan Qi mystic realm, Su Yu was probably the only freshman who could enter previously. This time, it would probably be a little more. After all, Wan Mingze and the others had obtained quite a number of merit points. Wan Mingze did not say much and directly handed the mountain and sea seeking invitation to Su Yu. He said with a smile, "Then it's settled. We will go and handle the handover later." "Okay." Su Yu nodded. He took the letter and looked at it. He touched the material and didn't know if it was made of dragon silk. Of course, in a public competition, it was unlikely that it was fake. Moreover, it wasn't a precious item. After getting the item, Su Yu finally let out a sigh of relief. As for the second and third prizes, Su Yu chose a one-time divine talisman. Hu Qiusheng was generous and even gave Su Yu 20 merit points. He didn't take advantage of him. In total, he had obtained 55 merit points and won one one-time divine talisman. Actually, it was not a small amount. It was a lot. However, Su Yu's appetite was much bigger now, or rather, his horizons were much higher. 55 merit points was not a small amount, but in his opinion, it was not the main thing. It was not every time there was a divine arts competition. This was originally meant to give benefits to the new students. The real seniors wouldn't participate in these competitions, but would show off their might on the top 100 rankings. After the competition ended, everyone left the secret document hall. They still had to participate in the monthly exam in the afternoon, so everyone had to go back and rest to recover their energy. The monthly exam for the advanced class was different from the previous month. In addition, almost all the students had participated in the competition, so their willpower was greatly exhausted. Su Yu didn't ask about the specifics of the exam in the afternoon. Instead, he rushed back to the research center. On the first floor of the basement. In the storeroom. There were many treasures in the storeroom. Blood essence and the words of will were all there. These were all Su Yu's things. By phone. He did not have them. He was poor. Su Yu placed the mountain and sea hidden invitation in the storeroom. He was a little excited. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 533, Martial Technique in Hand 3. Chapter 533, Chapter 145 Martial Technique in Hand. He was not in a hurry to open it. He would talk about it when he came back at night. In addition, he had to purchase some dragon silkworm essence blood. According to Swan and I, this thing was actually similar to how he opened his atlas. He opened it with dragon silkworm essence blood, but after a period of time, it would be sealed by itself. Heaven rank martial technique. Su Yu took a deep breath. It was a good thing. He looked at this post with some reluctance. Su Yu resisted the urge to study it now and obediently went to the filtration room to recover his energy. He still had to participate in the monthly exam in the afternoon. In the afternoon. Advanced class. Lu Hong came again. Everyone's consumption in the morning is not small. This advanced class monthly exam will not be civilized. As for the culture class, starting from this month, every time you take the exam, you will get 10 points for each course and 1 merit point will be awarded to accumulate merit points. Next month, on the basis of this month, we will add another course to pass the certification test. We will also follow this standard. Everyone had heard about this before, so they were not surprised. Su Yu had taken the test a few times this month and passed 4 courses. It was not bad. As for the improvement in willpower and divine literature, we can actually see some of it in the divine literature competition this morning. However, some of the students did not participate. Lu Hong glanced at Jia Mingjun and the others, he smiled and said, "There's no need to go through so much trouble. Later, I'll directly release willpower to suppress it. Whoever can persist the longest will be the first. According to the minute count, 10 points for persisting for 1 minute will be 100 points for 10 minutes. As he said that, Lu Hong continued, starting next month, it seems that someone in the class is preparing to challenge the top 100 ranking. According to the rules of the advanced class, the ranking on the top 100 ranking will represent the ranking of the monthly test. Therefore, whoever enters the top 100 ranking and is the only one, will be the first in the monthly test. There's no need to take the test again. It was all about strength. The monthly test was also for the students to become stronger. If only one person entered the top 100 and still wasn't the first in the monthly test, then what was? If there are many people entering, then we will follow the ranking of the top 100. Therefore, if there are 10 people in the class who enter the top 100, then the top 10 of the monthly test will be decided directly in the future. Lu Hong continued, for those who entered the top 10 last month, I hope there will be no more countdown this month. If you enter 3 times consecutively, you may be expelled or enter the intermediate class to study. Your teacher's grade will also be lowered. He glanced at Su Yu and felt a little helpless. Back then, he was prepared to let Su Yu enter the top 10 from the bottom a few more times, but in the end, this fellow continued to climb up, unable to suppress him. The few evildoers in the class were unable to suppress him. As for his own student, Lin Yao, he originally thought that he would at least be given a higher grade. Could he be considered a genius? In the end, it was fine not to mention it. Now that he was just short of becoming Su Yu's underling, what else could he say? This plan was obviously not going to work. As for Wu Lan, forget it. Wu Qi, this little sister, was a fool. After being sold by Su Yu, she still had to count the money for him. Lu Hong didn't waste any time and quickly said, "Does anyone have any objections to this assessment method?" Su Yu was silent for a moment. He raised his hand and said, "Teacher, you released your willpower to suppress it. Don't tell me that you're targeting someone." Lu Hong laughed and said, "Don't worry, I'm not the only one. There will be other researchers to supervise later." Su Yu, do you think teacher will target anyone? Su Yu did not say anything. Of course. Without anyone to supervise, it would be strange if you did not target me. Even if there was someone to supervise, you had to be careful. As they spoke, a Sky Realm teaching assistant entered the door very quickly. It was not Huang Yao. That person had already gone to the strong education department and was not in the academy now. Lu Hong did not say anything since this person had arrived. Soon, Lu Hong said, then the monthly test will officially begin. The effect is similar to that of civilized determination. If you can't hold on, you can leave by yourself. As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful pressure covered him. Su Yu's body sank. In the next moment, Su Yu's expression changed and he hurriedly looked at Lu Hong. Lu Hong's expression was calm. He was not targeting Su Yu. It was just that, his willpower was probing something. Su Yu could feel that he was being probed by someone's willpower. He cursed in his heart. No wonder this bastard chose this method of the monthly test. Shadow enchantment was released. It covered one acupuncture point after another. Originally, Su Yu was covering it, but at this time, he gradually let go of the cover of some acupuncture points. 76 acupuncture points. Su Yu let go of the cover of 76 acupuncture points. At this moment, the apertures that had been washed by the bright bird's blood essence gradually began to shine. Lu Hong was probing when his gaze suddenly changed. He instantly looked at Su Yu. His eyes were filled with shock. What was going on? 76 apertures was not considered a small amount. It was 6,000 tons, 8 apertures short of entering 7,000 tons. But, why was the yuan qi in this kid's apertures so pure? Lu Hong was not the only one. Quite a few people in the class looked at Su Yu, who looked like a figure of light, and all of them revealed doubtful expressions. Jia Mingzhen and the others also looked at Su Yu, somewhat surprised. What pure yuan qi! The acupuncture points were all emitting light. This kid is probably not weaker than some of the 1,000 caddies, or even stronger. The few of them quickly came to a conclusion. As for Lu Hong probing them, TSK, he was a fool. The elders all opened a portion of their acupuncture points for him to see. Some had more than 80, while some had more than 90. Jia Mingzhen directly opened 108 for him to see. You want to see? I'll show it to you. Surprised, not surprised. Qianjun 9th layer. Since the acupuncture points could be closed, they could naturally be divided. It was not easy for a Shanghai realm expert to trick a Sky realm expert. Lu Hong was not too surprised. A bunch of fellows above Qianjun 7th layer. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 534, Martial Technique in Hand 4. Chapter 534, Chapter 145 Martial Technique in Hand 4. What surprised him the most was Su Yu. Su Yu had improved so quickly. How could the vital qi in his acupuncture points be so pure? According to his thoughts, it should be extremely complicated. This kid seemed to be using his blood essence to cultivate. He had devoured quite a lot of blood essence. Moreover, the filtering room of the Wentan Research Center was where the blood essence was concentrated. This shouldn't be the case. Wan Mingze and the others also looked at Su Yu. Su Yu remained expressionless. It was fine for him to display some of his strength appropriately. Besides, once they exchanged blows, it wouldn't be able to conceal it. It was just pure yuan qi. What, haven't I seen it before? However, Su Yu wasn't willing to suffer a loss with his words. He was a little depressed and angry. He looked at Lu Hong and said loudly, "Teacher, your willpower has broken through my willpower defense. Have you gone too far?" Lu Hong was speechless. He said indifferently, "You can't bear it on your own. You need willpower to resist it. If you don't want to expose yourself, then give up on the test yourself." Su Yu's face was sullen. A little indignant, he said in a low voice, "I didn't intend to hide anything. I just didn't want to attract too much attention. Teacher, please withdraw the willpower that you have probed in my body. This is against the rules." The supervisor, who was in the Sky Realm, also looked at Su Yu in surprise. Then, he looked at Lu Hong. He said softly, "Assistant Teacher Lu, it's fine as long as the pressure is outside. It's indeed against the rules. It's normal for students to have their own secrets. Assistant Teacher Lu, don't overdo it." Lu Hong smiled and nodded. Alright, I was a little surprised just now. I'll apologize to student Su Yu. Su Yu couldn't say anything else when a person jumped into the air and easily apologized. He cursed in his heart. Fortunately, I'm not just like that. The pressure continued. Gradually, some students couldn't take it anymore and took the initiative to withdraw. Jia Mingzhen and the others were all extremely calm at this moment. They were eating and chatting in low voices. Lu Hong glanced at them a few times and couldn't help but curse in his heart. These guys didn't look like rookies at all. Instead, they looked a little old-fashioned. They were all in the Qianjun realm, but he didn't see any tens of thousands of stones. It was still considered normal. As for willpower, it wasn't low at all. The lowest was more than 80%, and there were even 2 people who were close to 95%. They can all be considered freaks, but I keep feeling that something isn't right. If they really were freaks, he wouldn't be surprised. The key was that these guys' attitudes weren't like those of young people like Su Yu. They were somewhat used to seeing big scenes, the feeling of looking at people from the corner of their eyes. Lu Hong remained expressionless and continued to release his willpower to intimidate. Who was strong and who was weak was obvious at a glance. Some of those whose willpower had just recovered quickly left the classroom. Gradually, those who were left behind were all experts. Those who had performed well in the divine literature competition in the morning were all present at this moment. However, at this moment, the strength of their physical bodies was also of some help. After all, the mystic literature realm was only comparing willpower and divine literature. It was still somewhat different from now. At this moment, the strength of some students who had entered the Qianjun realm erupted from their acupoints one after another. They gritted their teeth and persevered. The strength of their physical bodies could also withstand the suppression at this moment. After 10 minutes, there weren't many people left. Jia Mingzhen and the others had also left. There were only 3 people left. Su Yu and the other freakish students didn't leave. Lu Hongwei's suppression continued. There was a feeling that it was getting stronger and stronger. After 12 minutes, Xia Huyo ran away. After 15 minutes, Zhao Shiqi was somewhat unwilling. His acupoints burst out and the imposing aura of the Qianjun 7th layer was unleashed. He barely managed to hold on for another 2 minutes before leaving unwillingly. After 18 minutes, Xia Chan frowned and left somewhat dejectedly. After 20 minutes, Hu Qiusheng staggered back, feeling a little helpless. On the other hand, Zheng Yunhui directly erupted with the aura of the 8th layer of Qianjun and was still holding on. At this moment, only Wan Mingze, Zheng Yunhui, Su Yu, and Jia Mingzhen were left. As for Zheng Hong, he left almost at the same time as Zhao Shiqi. Su Yu's entire body was glowing. His strength at the 6th stage of Qianjun was completely exposed as he held on with a head full of sweat. Due to the purity of his Yuan Qi, he had managed to hold on until now. When he saw that Zheng Yunhui and Wan Mingze were on the verge of collapse, Su Yu also staggered out as his sweat dripped incessantly. Seeing that he could not hold on any longer, Wan Mingze and Zheng Yunhui looked at each other and heaved a sigh of relief. They did not persist any longer and walked out one after another. As for Jia Mingzhen, who was left in the classroom, he was still eating. When he saw that they had all run away, he muttered, "So weak? I think I can hold on for another 5 minutes." The few of them were speechless and left without saying a word. Jia Mingzhen did not hold on for too long. After about 3 minutes, his face turned pale and he ran out unsteadily. Lu Hong's eyes were filled with bewilderment. "What the F***ck, you ran out?" Su Yu and the others walked out step by step. "You ran out. What did he mean? He had not reached his limit yet. Was this guy really that strong? What the hell is going on this year?" Lu Hong was also speechless. In the past, there were probably only a few people who could hold on for 10 minutes under his pressure. This year, there was a large group. Even in their previous year, among the 5 people, Xia Yuan, Hu Wensheng, Bai Feng, Wu Qi, and himself, Hu Wensheng was at most similar to Zheng Hong. As for himself, he was probably at Xia Huyo's current level. Xia Yuan was strong, probably similar to Wan Mingze and the others. But this Jia Mingzhen, what was going on? And Su Yu. With his current overall strength, he was probably in the top 5 of the class. A moment later, the students returned. Lu Hong looked at Jia Mingzhen once more and did not say anything else. He opened his mouth and said, first, Wan Mingze, 290 points. Second, Hu Qiusheng, 280 points. Third, Su Yu, 260 points. Fourth, Jin Yunhui, Jia Mingzhen tied for 250 points. Jia Mingzhen's 250 points were all for the suppression test. His cultural class had 0 points. Jin Yunhui's cultural class score was lower than Su Yu's, but it was 10 points lower than Su Yu's. At this moment, Jin Yunhui rubbed his chin and looked at Jia Mingzhen, muttering, I thought I was ignorant, but I didn't expect, there's someone even more ignorant than me. Jia Mingzhen didn't seem to have a high score in the cultural class last time either. This time, it was a 0. Jin Yunhui looked at him with some disdain and bared his teeth as he laughed, I got at least 30 points and passed 3 courses. Some guys are really stupid. Jia Mingzhen looked at him with an expression that said, you're dead meat. Damn it, do you believe that I'll directly pass more than 100 courses next month? I'm only giving you a chance, and you dare to look down on me? I'll put a sack over your head tonight and beat you to death. Su Yu didn't say anything. Third place was already not bad. His culture class was considered high, but Wan Mingze and Hu Qiusheng had also passed a few courses. It looked like these guys were also very hard-working. That's why it's a lie if a genius doesn't work hard. If they all pretend not to work hard, they might stay up all night reading in private until dawn. Su Yu cursed in his heart. Are they still giving people a way out? It was one thing if they had talent, but they were still working so hard. They had even passed so many cultural lessons. How could the children of ordinary families possibly turn the tables? No, starting from next month, 4 hours of rest every day is definitely enough. Su Yu set himself a goal. Wan Mingze these bastards. He had talent and resources. He would not go out every day to play around and hook up with girls, but he actually stayed up all night studying. He felt a sense of crisis. Even though he had reached the critical mass, he still felt uncertain at this time. He was not even the number 1 freshman. How could he compete with others? Go back and practice heaven-rank martial arts. When you get on the top 100 list, pull them out one by one and beat them up. No matter how many hours you study, I will have a few more hours than you. Su Yu secretly made up his mind.